Hey y'all, it's me again, Joey.
Well, ready to let them loose?
Yep, that's it. Let's see if they make us run.
Oh,
Probably so.
yeah, that one tried to get after him, but other than that, what can you expect? I mean, can you blame them? Oh yeah, they're getting after us now. Go, Joey, go!
Hey man!
Hey, man, buddy. I'm gonna get in the truck. You gotta go back and get your camera.
But also, just get as many as you can off the one next to it. Out.
You gotta move forward.
Do that side again. This was supposed to be one of my utility nukes. I got tired of pulling frames out of it and giving it to other halves to make them strong. So I just decided to put them in a 10 framer a few weeks ago. Then I put them a deep on a couple of weeks after that. And about a week and a half ago, I put that medium on there. This was the last year's queen. Everybody says, oh, you don't want to keep your old queens, you want to get rid of them. So they're still growing after I rob from this nuke every week or every couple of weeks just to make other production hives stronger. Alright. I've got another boxing through on there. Maybe they'll give them a little more room. Y'all ready? Let's get started. Hey y'all, it's me again, Joey. And we got Tom and Mr. JW. How y'all doing today?
I'm good.
It's great.
You want to know my favorite part of your introduction there? When It Goes plays out, it's you and Mike Berry. When you open up that hive and all you hear is voices and you're like, oh, he's getting after me now. And you hear you guys scurrying off. Every time I hear that, I laugh. I love it.
Hey, Todd. He's got the other side of that video. I need to get it from him. I say that every time.
Yeah, do that. That would be hilarious. I'd love to see it. What's up, Mr. Callie?
Well, I was supposed to move bees tonight, but it's too hot. We're not going to do it.
So you're here wasting time with us, right?
Well, I'm barbecuing right now as we speak, so I'm multitasking.
Oh, that sounds good. Hey, let's talk about what you're cooking there. Is anything good?
Just chicken thighs and asparagus.
I can do that too. That sounds good.
And sweet potato fries.
Oh yeah, I like it.
What's up, Mr. Wizard?
Always cooking, aren't you, buddy? You're cooking and he's eating. Biggest part of the time.
I can't tell where your glasses are. Mr. Wizard's hat's on, kind of. Oh, there we go.
Before I forget, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hope everybody's doing well. Glad you're coming in. Yeah, if it was as hot in California as it should be compared to here in Louisiana today, it's too hot to even walk outside and get the mail.
Yeah, I've pretty much been in the house all day. It's supposed to be over 100 next 3 days.
Oh my gosh! Forget that noise.
I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'll be inside the house tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Although I need to load up my lunar wax melter and get that thing moving.
You could do this if you wanted to, Todd.
What's that?
Jump on a plane, head to St. Louis. Okay. It's not anywhere close to the temperatures you're having. And then you can see Cayman Reynolds and J.W. Irwin himself signing autographs.
You may see Cayman. You won't see me.
We could get him out here. I know we could.
Yeah.
Gotta
get
get
him over
across
here.
that river, maybe ever again.
What'd you do to him, Tom? He sounds kind of sour.
I don't know. Somebody must have got up in his crawl this evening. I don't know. Maybe he's in a bad mood.
I've had to put up with family all day. Yeah, I showed you
Uh-oh.
that.
That's it.
Uh,
There you go.
That's the worst fate in the world. I have to put up with family, especially when you got as many as I got.
well, it only got 95 degrees here today. I was just looking at it. First time I looked at it today because I knew it was hot. But it says 75 was the low. This morning didn't feel too bad though. It felt more like mid 60s than 75. But things change when that sun comes up.
69 here right now. It's been raining off and on
Yeah.
since about 3 this afternoon here.
Yep,
We've had,
70.
right at 3 inches here in the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
85 here right now.
71 here, and it just finished raining. I just got 0.6 of an inch of rain in the last hour and a half. And then a day and a half ago, I got 3.5 or 3.6 inches. So I'm over 4 inches in the last, what do you think that is, JW? Last 48 hours or so?
Jeez.
Yeah, maybe 64. I don't know. It's we had 2.5 here when you got the 3 plus. We had 2.5.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's been raining here again since about 3 o'clock off and on. Raining real hard. Right at the moment, it's not raining, but it has been off and on all evening. It's supposed to be quit here in about an hour. So
Yeah.
things are going good. I'm telling you what. I walked underneath. My family was out here today. This is my 27th family reunion at my farm. I think I think that's the number of years, and I may be lying a year or two, but I haven't kept official track. But I think this first Saturday of June. I think the last 27 years, all my siblings, families have come to my farm, and we're getting down. There's only 2 of them. I've only got 1 sibling sister left out of 10 of us. So,
Yeah, we used to have big gatherings like that. My mama she was one of 10 siblings, and we had not just big reunions, but I mean, it was like weekly or monthly gatherings. We'd have a lot of people there.
I'm getting echo in mine for some reason here. Are you folks getting echo?
I hear something.
I hear some background noise, which sounds like a television or something.
No, it's just
Well, it's actually a echo of this live.
Yeah.
Might be the stream doing it because I don't even have YouTube on.
It stopped. Now, Tom, take yours off mute. Now, JW, take yours off mute. Now, Tom, take yours off mute.
It's JW.
well, I'm getting late repeat. It's
Yeah.
I'm gonna log off and log back on maybe, but because everything's. I'm getting echo here through everything. Let me write this down or I'll lose it.
I wasn't really paying it that much attention. I'm so used to hearing noise all the time.
It just started like,
Yeah.
out of the blue.
Well, I don't know how many people over the chat's been pulling in your honey, but I've been pulling a few frames at a time, making room because I'm out of equipment. I pulled about estimated or pretty close 430 pounds so far. And probably don't have about 2 weeks left in their flow, if that long. So and I'm gonna pull everything and be done with it. Maybe 3 weeks.
I only have about 3 buckets. Well, I do have 3 buckets because I ran it through already of orange honey, but I had such weak colonies coming out of the winter of what I had left after all the kill off. And even those, there weren't a whole bunch that were, let's say, nectar finding source. So the orange honey definitely is not going to be what it was the last couple of years. I probably only last couple of years I've been getting 5, 6, 7 buckets, and no more than that, but at least 7 buckets. And right now I've only got 3, so I'm hurting. But I'll be ready for summer honey. That's for sure. They're strong right now.
I'm gonna try to. I've got too many beehives, and half of them aren't even production hives. But you got to work them just like you do anything else. And I'm gonna try to get down to 20, 25 for next year.
Yeah.
See what I can do. I'm just doing it for fun. I ain't trying to make a living. Trying to help it pay for itself. I keep buying big toys to go with them, though.
I'll tell you what. Even though I came out of the winter really low, this is the first time in a long time that I am ahead of the bees. Like I really didn't need to do anything today anyway. Everything, they've been split. The splits have been split. All I just have to do is keep an eye on honey supers, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling because I'm always behind them. Always.
I've actually took some honey boxes that the bees are not utilizing like they should. I've took them off of them and put them on another one that needed them.
I've got some that just won't. I don't know what they're doing. They're full, 2 boxes full of bees, and they have like 1 comb of honey, and it's not capped yet. I don't know what's going on. It's got lots of brood in it, though. They just don't want to go get honey, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, Joey, I put a message in the private chat for you.
I saw it.
Okay.
What about you, JW? You done swarming out over there?
I hope to God's sake I have. I haven't had one now for a couple of weeks now since I went through that 14. I call it the Swarmerama.
Swarmerama.
I'm fixing them dudes up. Oh, I'm working. I'm gonna put a stop to that stuff.
But Swarmapalooza.
Yeah. I'm fixing to get where I can put a stop to those swarms.
How you gonna do that?
Shotgun them.
Oh,
That'll do it.
Hey, would you video that, please?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Do it without a veil on.
You're alive now, Joey. You got to give me a little. Don't be put me on the spot. Ask me specific questions. Right?
He's gonna get himself in trouble, right?
Yeah.
I love it. So, Todd, you guys have really reached that peak heat of summer, huh? Already?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just going to get worse until it'll peak somewhere in August, and then it'll stay at 90 degrees for like 2 months, and then and then November it cools down.
You'll be in the ocean by then anyway, Todd. They're gonna fall that whole way. You
never know.
about it.
You never know.
You better start heading east. It's safer land.
Well, I'll tell you what. They're thinking it's going to be a hot summer, and I think after last year where I had honey dripping out of the bottom of the hives, I might put pans underneath there to catch some of it.
Yeah.
I might not have to extract anything, just let it drip out.
What I started to say a while ago before I started echoing was I had family out here today, and a couple of my sons come back through there, and she said, "Dad, what's that roar?" And we walked out there, and all my persimmon trees are blooming, and them bees are just, I mean, it's almost like a swarm. It's just a roar. You know?
Wow.
I've got the persimmons. I walked back there to my yards, and they're bringing in. I don't know how much nectar they're getting. I really don't, but they're sure getting a bunch of pollen off of them persimmons.
Well, that's a good thing too.
So we'll see. I just don't know. I had the same thing a couple years ago where they would just loaded up on it. Now last year we didn't have a very good persimmon bloom. So, but 2 years ago I had so many persimmons on the trees that it broke the limbs off a lot of them. You know,
Wow.
It just broke them down. They were so heavy with persimmons. So
Wow.
we'll see what happens.
Is that a good taste of honey?
I don't know. You know, I don't eat that stuff.
Well, just try it. I mean, if they're bringing it in, you see they're bringing it in, try it and let me know if it's any good. We have several here, so.
You don't eat your honey?
Very little, not unless I have to.
You don't taste test it before you sell it?
Somebody forces it down me.
Mm.
I'm not a big fan of honey. I've said that all along. You know, I just, the only reason I mess with bees is I just love being stung. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't do it at all.
Well, you shouldn't have been complaining because the day that Melissa and I stopped by, you said you got stung plenty and you didn't seem happy about it, especially your ear. All I heard was the two of them hollering inside the hoop building as I'm outside of the hoop building. Well, he doesn't have that picture up right now. He's got a huge hoop building out toward not the back of the property, but on the back side of where the buildings are at. And Melissa and him were in there, and I hear him hollering and all kinds of carrying on. And I'm over there trying to work and get stuff done. And Melissa's in there laughing at him, comes walking out of the thing, just laughing and carrying on. And he's still in there hollering. A bee got in his ear and stung him.
In my ear.
Yeah. Oh, it was
She
great.
thought it was. I'll get even with her though. I carry a grudge.
She was really carrying on. She did you wrong, you know?
What's a grudge weigh?
You don't
With
want
him?
to know.
With him, it's heavy. Oh, yeah. Well, I hope that my hives start humming here this next week. I believe I'm going to be clear on weather, rainy weather, that is, most of this next week, actually. And I should be, temperature-wise, will be in the upper 70s and low 80s. Which theoretically tells me that I should be able to have those bees make some clover crop. Fingers crossed. Because we have plenty of
They're
clover.
working it pretty good too.
Yeah. That clover, the plant itself looks phenomenal. It is lush, it is green, and it's full. There's plenty of moisture in that plant.
So,
Looking forward to it though.
well, we'll see how it turns out. We'll hope for the best. I don't know. My bees are bearding pretty good even with this cool weather. I don't know whether I need to give them a little more room or what's going on, to be honest with you. But I've got some pretty good bearding for, like before it's rainy is what it is. So
Do you think that with all the humming going on, do you think that they were outside just drying it down? Is that what you're thinking?
I honestly, now You want to know the truth? I asked 3 different bees, and then none of them gave me an answer. So I don't know
Squash them.
what's going
Yeah.
on.
I'd have eliminated them.
Yep. If they don't answer
Don't
you,
listen.
beat them with the hive tool.
You know, I don't claim to know. You know, Tom, I'm not gonna. That's a good thought, but I'm not gonna say that that's the case. I really don't know. But I know what bearding looks like when I see it, and there's, you know, not big heavy beards, but about every hive has got a lot of bearding going on around my place, and I got.
Yep.
Well, if they don't have a good population, they won't beard. That's for a fact.
Well,
Yep.
I think I've got plenty of bees.
I got them hanging out everywhere down here.
Yeah. Well, like I
Julie,
said,
what-
we had we had one 90-degree day last week, but it was. But other than that, like I said, it's 69 here right now, and it's been raining off and on about all evening.
I have a feeling it's going to get really humid at your place and my place this
Oh,
next week.
goodness. The other morning, even this morning early, where there was no breeze, and then yesterday morning, it was just so humid you couldn't hardly get your breath. I don't know.
Yeah, the last couple
We had
mornings
all
have been a
that.
fog.
I don't miss that stuff. I remember it.
Yeah, it's not as much fun.
I'd get when it started up every year, I'd get a rash on the inside of my elbows, both arms, for about a week and a half. Then they went away. I guess it was just my body trying to acclimate to the humidity for some reason. At least that's what the doctor told me. It happened every single year.
Wow.
I thought I tackled a poison ivy or poison oak bush or something when I was on the mower, you know, getting real close to the edge there. And doctor said, no, that's not poison oak.
Sounds like you were allergic to Missouri.
No, it lasted for a week and a half. That was it.
That's
and I was fine. It's weird. You know, when it gets humid over here, when it gets over 15%, sometimes my elbows itch a little, but I don't get a rash.
I tell you, my wife and a bunch of the grandkids has been in Gulfport all week. I pulled the camper down there last Thursday for them and went yesterday and picked it back up. Time I got out of that truck, started walking in that sand and all that heat hitting me. I said, y'all better be getting in your cars. I'm hooking up this thing. We're getting out of here. I couldn't stand it. It's hot enough here at home than having to walk around in sand.
Yeah.
I gotta make a comment here, boys, if you'll bear with me. Please don't be offended, Mr. Bundy. Who are you and where are you from? Please tell me. If anybody knows, besides Bundy himself, please, or herself, whoever Bundy is, who are you and where do you live? Please don't be offended. I'm just curious. Nobody's answered my question yet.
Maybe it's Al from Polk High. Maybe that's who it is.
Yeah. He's my hero. If it is, he's my hero because I'm an Alabama fan.
I know, that was the best show. I love that show. That was so much fun.
Yeah, he's my kind of guy. So. Well, I must have made him mad.
No, he said he's not offended.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Ontario.
Okay. Well, come on down. We're glad to have you. I've seen you on here, but I didn't know who you was, and I asked a couple folks, and the folks that I asked didn't know who you was. So I like to know who all my friends are.
I would be curious to know what temperatures he's experiencing in Ontario right now.
I bet it's pleasant.
Yeah.
On the east side. I don't know.
Todd, did you say earlier that you weren't having a good honey year yourself?
No.
Yeah.
Just because the field force is way low.
Ah, okay.
Small field force.
I see.
But
Okay.
except for summer.
Good answer, Bundy. Now we know. Thank you. Come see me. If our dear president, Mr. Trump, will let you in the country, come on down.
See, it's 69 degrees there. I said it was pleasant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is here. So
I bet it's not as humid.
Probably not.
yeah, it can be up there too. Some of that Ontario's got a lot of water in it, you know. It's
Yeah.
like lake every 3 foot.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping said smoky in Canada. I bet it probably is. I know there was a few days this last week that smoke has made it all the way down to St. Louis, and you could see it in the air.
Yeah, we've got a hazy look in the air even today. You know, part of it was the rain clouds, but a lot of it I think was smoke residue.
I see Philip in here. He just learned a couple of weeks ago that he's passed right by a Man Lake store all the time, and now that Man Lake store is about to close.
Oh, boy.
It's closing this month. Closing down.
Just the one in his area?
Are they
Yeah.
all closing?
No, the one in Texas is the one they
Yeah,
said
there's one down there.
they did an email on it.
Well, they were talking on Charlie's channel last night about one up there in Pennsylvania.
I don't know about it, but I know the one in Texas. They're going. Seem like it's the 26th or 28th of this year. They probably going to try to ship everything they can out instead of hauling. And when it gets ordered. Hey, Eddie. But yeah, I just told Philip about it just a couple of weeks ago. He didn't realize he was passing by there every time he goes to Louisiana.
Yeah, it looks like Pennsylvania store is closing as well.
Yeah.
So you're right, Todd.
They must be closing a lot of their satellites down then.
Bet they are. Brick and mortar shut down.
Sounds like to me they're trying to boost profits.
Sounds to me like they got corporate America stuck in their headquarters.
Could be.
Yeah.
I'll tell you these, two majors, you know, I think they've lost a lot of business because they got a little bit too independent to a lot of folks.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't giving very good service.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they woke up or not, but they need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the little guys out there have been providing pretty phenomenal service, and I think that possibly they're taking business away from the big guys. So,
Yep.
Well, you know, stuff like that happens when that was a family operated business for years. And from what I understand, I may be mistaken or got bad news, or wrong news, but it was bought out and it's owned by just business people now. So
Yeah.
people don't even do nothing with beekeeping. So when that happens, you know which way that goes.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
They send the accountants in there and they start figuring out where they trim the fat, and that's the first thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a store there in Kentucky. There's the old Kelly operation that they bought out. I think they still, you know, some of Kelly's old customers still loyal to them. But I shouldn't say this, I guess, in public, but I don't have much confidence in their service.
Well, I hate to say it, guys, but I got to get going. I got to.
Oh,
Yeah. My barbecue time is coming up here in 3 minutes.
Send me a picture of your plate of food. I'm
Well,
hungry.
just set your iPhone up in your kitchen and we'll watch you cook while we talk.
I used to be able to do that on an Apple laptop, but that thing crashed, and now I'm on my desktop.
Oh, good man. Yeah.
Let your desktop end up in there.
iPhone.
JW, I'll leave the porch light on, and you can just come over.
That's
Be under the mat.
You
Pick me
got,
up on the way over.
Yep,
Stop
don't-
in at the plane. I'll get you a landing spot.
you
And
got.
then snag me up with
Yeah.
your tail hook.
Yeah, that's,
Get on
Yeah.
over there.
You need to come out here. We go honky tonk at some bar, and I'll get you lined up with 4 or 5 of them fancy women.
I'm never gonna live that one down.
Hey,
All I did was I went out, got away from here, went out, enjoyed myself, and had a little fun. And JW makes fun of me. That's about it.
Well, you didn't have near as much fun that night as I've had fun aggravating you over. You know that.
I know, right?
yeah, Philip, they bought them out.
Yep.
Well,
that's for sure.
I better go before I burn my chicken.
Okay, well, whenever you get done eating, come back. We'll probably be here live.
Yeah.
Well, I'm put my earpiece on and listen while on my phone, just in case you want to say anything bad about me, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call you Mr. Wizard from now on.
There you go.
If I think about it, I'll try to insult you some way.
I know you will. You can't pass up that chance, huh?
Well, if you can't aggravate your friends, you can't aggravate your enemies. They'll hurt you.
That's right.
And I'm laughing about it. So what the heck? I don't. It's bouncing up.
Good night, buddy. We hope to see you again a little later on this evening.
Oh yeah. All right. I'll be back.
See you in a little bit.
See ya.
Okay. See ya.
Well, if anybody else wants to come in, the invitation link is pinned. See what we can bring up. Yeah, Man Lake bought them and what was that other store they bought? Brushy Mountain. Was it Brushy Mountain Bee Supply? They bought them out too.
Now, Brushy Mountain was a single store.
I'm not sure if it was a little corporation or one store. I don't know.
Okay.
There's Philip.
Ah, there he is.
Hey,
What's up?
oh, not much. What y'all doing?
We was talking about you, but you got on here now.
And I don't know why you pick on me, JW. When you weren't on the chat the other night, I was picking on Tom for you. I filled in for you.
Good deal.
Hey, that's what I was hoping you guys do. When I get in the background and start poking on somebody and I'm looking for a reaction, kind of takes the pressure off Melissa.
Yeah. Bless her heart, she's got a lot to put up with. I can tell you that. I don't blame her at all.
She's actually gone this evening.
Oh,
Really?
Yep. She went out. She's out at a hibachi grill this evening. Her
Those are fun.
sister's birthday.
I hadn't been to one of those in a while.
Yeah, those are pretty fun, honestly.
Yeah.
If you go to a decent one, one that's clean. I've been to a couple that weren't quite so clean. Didn't really enjoy the food as much, but there's one that's near us that it's pretty nice one. They've got nice quality food. So, it's important that you have nice fresh vegetables for your, hibachi experience,
Yeah.
Nothing that's been wilting for a day or so.
Brian.
So what's up with Philip over there? See, you're outside.
Yeah, I'm out here in the 90-degree weather and humidity.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
at the farm.
It
I'm
looks
sitting out.
kind of thick behind you.
Yeah,
I like that big tree. What is that?
that's a
Kinda cool.
mesquite tree. That's a mesquite tree.
Is it?
It's
Mesquite?
about half dead. It's almost dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mesquite let me down this year. Got a few little blooms early and nothing after that. So it's not like last year. Last year it bloomed hard in like 1st of June, but it's not doing that this year. My honey supers are almost all completely dry. So, and what they had put in them a few weeks back, they've consumed it pretty much. So I think I got a full. I think it's going to be 0 for me this year down here.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It's not good.
Oh well. Oh well, and I'm battling losing hives right now. I'm gonna actually start feeding tomorrow. So
Really?
try to keep them alive. Yeah, so I got some of them that are out. That some of them don't have any honey even in the bottom box. Like all my swarms that I caught. I've lost like 3 or 4 of the swarms I caught already.
Now, isn't the dearth a little bit early right now for you?
Yeah, it shouldn't come on until like 1st of July. But last year, now I'm hoping I was wrong last year. Last year, I thought it was the mesquite that gave me my little boost right at the end. Hopefully, I was wrong about that, and maybe whatever that was will hit this year still, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we talked about that before.
It's not going to be the mesquite.
So the mesquite, we kind of talked about this and helped refresh my memory.
Yeah,
mesquite, does it have a little bit of a smoky aftertone on it?
Mine doesn't. I'm not sure what you. A couple years ago, my honey was real fruity, but that was real early.
Well, I only asked that, and I'll just mention it again, but I had last fall, I think it was, I had some honey that was supposed to be mesquite, and a gal brought it as a taste test to Missouri State Conference last fall. And I tried it, and it was phenomenal. It had a smoky aftertone on the backside of it, and it was labeled mesquite, and it was out of Texas. I don't recall what apiary it came out of, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. That's why I ask.
Yep. Jeremy's on here. Maybe he could tell us. He does a good bit of mesquite.
Who?
Jeremy Granado. Right?
Oh, I don't know who he is.
Granado Hunter, he's out there in West Texas.
Yeah, he's in West Texas. I was chatting with him. I've got a friend that, matter of fact, I was texting him before I got on to here. His parents have a place somewhere out near Abilene, and he said that they would be happy for me to bring my hives out there. And after it's so bad here, I'm thinking, it's only about a 4-hour drive. I was thinking about putting about 20 colonies on a trailer and hauling them out there and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And there's cotton out there.
I've never tasted cotton honey, but they say it's pretty good.
Yeah. It crystallizes real fast, I think, but I figured I'd make cream honey out of it if it does that.
Mm-hmm.
Makes your mouth awful dry when you chew on that cotton.
Kind of like the mesquite smoky.
Yeah. I like chewing on a mesquite bush.
Oh gosh.
How you, Mr. Bradley? How you doing, buddy?
I'm very well. How are you?
Well, I've done a lot of lying and aggravating folks, so get lying.
Brad, you see what we get to put up with here?
I know. I see that guy on here, and I think I don't know if I want to come on.
Maybe you can get him straightened out. What do you think?
No, that's not my job.
His wife hasn't been able to get it done in the last. Hold on, what is that? 60 years or 61?
It makes you think I can do it.
Yeah, well, we need an act of God here,
Yeah.
How's the bee things going in Manitoba? How things going up there?
Well, things are going really good for some people, I guess. Going good for me. Just another year to bounce back. And fortunately, this year I had enough stock to actually get some queens going. So I hope I have enough stock to make the nukes that they need to winter. I've given up on the honey crop. I'll get a little bit of a honey crop this year. That'll be offset from, by the really good honey crop I got over the last 2 years,
Mhm.
and but I'm working on next year, right? I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out what's getting to my bees. What am I doing wrong, or whatever. So as long as I've got enough bees to stay alive here, I think I need to be thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a lot of a lot of empty spaces. There's a lot of empty spaces, a lot of empty space. This picture was taken a couple of days ago. So I've been taking out all the less than star performers, making mating nukes out of them, so at least they can, add to the greater good sort of thing. I've got to date, I've got about probably 80 cells started. I have a good number in the mating nukes already, and I'll be probably putting more in tomorrow. I'm on about a 4-day rotation, so it keeps me busy to get nukes ready, cell checked, and cells in the incubator, and then virgins out in the field. So it's just back and forth.
Brad, do you sell nukes?
Well, I have, but I've been able to keep my bees alive enough to produce anything.
Yeah.
So I would love to have a good nuke business,
Mm-hmm.
make a little extra income, but I've not been very successful.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to simplify, and I'm trying to remove variables and
Yeah.
get back to the days when I could do this and be have a winter that I could depend on less than 20% loss sort of thing.
Sure.
I'd love that.
Have you actually figured out exactly what's happening with it? Is it not making it through the winter right, or into storage, or what?
Well, I think there's a few things going on. One of them, I'm convinced, is poor mic control, and I always take responsibility for that. However, in 2023, I did have a very unexpected Amitrez resistance show up. So that's the only part that I'm not taking full responsibility for, because by the time I realized that, it was too late in the season to do anything. I think I'm dealing with the aftermath of that still, but I also believe that even last year, I still wasn't very good at, because I had to shift gears, right? I had that product taken, ripped from my hands. And so I had to shift gears and other stuff. I didn't shift gears very well last year. I'm trying to be better at that this year. And I think so far it's working, but we'll see what the rest of the season holds. Just got to find a new way to make it work, right?
Yeah.
And there's some other stuff. There's some hunches. There's some, I talk to everybody I know, and especially, talking to the people who figured out why all their bees have died, sort of thing, or why they think all their bees have died, if it's not just mites. And, possibly apply some of that to my own operation. So it's a work in progress, really. I appreciate all the good thoughts and kind words from everybody, though. It really helps a guy keep going, when everything seems to be falling apart. It really helps.
Well, just like Joey said a while ago, we're not in it for a living like you are. So it's,
Well,
that's tough when your life.
Yeah, when it's your livelihood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't make much money anyway, so if I make 50% less than hardly anything, then it's still hardly anything.
We're laughing, but that's not really funny.
That's, that sounds like the pay they give us in the Scout. They double our pay every year.
It's maybe not funny, but it's true. I could lose everything, and I really wouldn't have lost much.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? I talk a lot about what happened last year, and boy, you guys kicked in, and everybody's sending me encouraging words, and some sending me more than that. It's just was a real beautiful thing. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life.
Well, best of luck to you. If we can be of help in any way. What? You know,
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people, and of course, what's on my mind these days is raising queens. So I'm trying to get better at that and whatnot. My last.
Are your fellow beekeepers in your area? They all having the same problems you're having, or you think it's your situation, or is it an area situation, or what do you think?
It's pretty common.
Yeah.
Pretty common. There's a lot of people still losing, but there's a lot of people doing okay still. So we just need to tap into those, right? We need to tap into what those people are doing.
Sure.
But I was going to say that my grafting is kind of hit and miss, and the most recent graft seems to be about an 84% take. So I'm extremely happy with that.
Yeah.
I see my neighbor there pulled 450 pounds. He just had to pull more than I did. What I pulled.
We all got that guy in our life, don't we?
Well, he's a little more of a Yankee than what Joey is. He lives about 20 miles north of Joey, so he's up in Mississippi. He's almost a Yankee. That's the reason
we about even because he's really from further south than I am.
Yeah, he's from Bunkie, isn't he? Bunkie, Louisiana. I think he told me he was from Bunkie, Louisiana.
I just know you can't get there from here.
And there's a lot of places you can't get there from. Franklinton. Whatever. Well,
DC's saying maybe keep them in the shed shorter. It's not really a thing actually. A longer time in the shed is better if you can keep them cool. It just because it just kind of shuts them down. Keeps them in stasis almost. And the fact that our winters are cold really works for us, to be honest. That's not what kills the bees. It's just it's mostly mites, and I'm looking at some minor feed issues. I don't want to really bring too much of it up until I figure it out, but just I always look at what they're eating. You look at that sugar syrup that they eat all winter, because I know that can be pretty tentative. If some of that syrup is not cured and capped, then it can absorb atmospheric moisture over the winter months, and then it'll ferment, and that'll kill the bees. Definitely, if it ferments, the bees eat that, they die. If they're able to fly, then that might give them a bad stomach and they fly and poop it out, but not in the context of an extended winter sequestration, as they say. So I'm always looking at that. I'm always looking at the feed. We have some very good research here on exactly the types of feed that are most advantageous. I try to follow that. And not only that, I mean, I will never be so bold to speak against any products that a person might put in their sugar syrup, but I've eliminated a lot of that stuff I know I'm doing a very limited trial on a product right now, but that's just a very small number of colonies. But for the most part, in general, I've removed everything I've been doing to just give pure sucrose syrup to the bees. Just have to go back to the basics, right?
Yep.
Woo, good grief.
Are you buying your liquid feed bread, or are you making?
No, I buy sugar that's right out of the store, just like everybody else, fit for human consumption, and I like that because there's no questions for me that it's tightly controlled
It
as
is
to
cane
quality.
sugar, though. It's not beet sugar or some other.
It's both. It'll be either, and there's don't get me on that.
Well, I've heard you say that it didn't make any difference.
Sugar. It's
I'm
sugar.
not speaking from experience. I don't know.
No. Some people have an agenda against beet sugar, but it has nothing to do with the bees.
Yeah.
It's sugar.
I wondered the same myself, if there was a difference in beet sugar to cane sugar in relation to the honeybees and what that means in their guts.
No, there isn't. If you want to draw a distinction, there is. There is no difference. But if you're bound and determined and bent on drawing a distinction, then you need to use beet sugar. Because it's the type of sugar that flowers produce.
Yeah.
Cane sugar is not the kind of sugar that flowers produce.
I see.
It's a C4 sugar. Beet sugar is C3 sugar, and so is nectar.
Yeah, I see.
So
Went right over my head.
if you think there's a difference, there's no difference. I'm saying for the people who think there's a difference, they better use beet sugar.
I'm guessing what you're saying is it's probably negligible. As far
There
as
is no difference. in the heads of some people, there's a difference. But in the guts of the bees, there's no difference. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
Sawmill Charlie.
Hey.
Sorry.
I was talking about Sawmill Charlie on my video that went out today.
Yeah, I just got done watching it.
A
Looks,
couple
looks like-
times. I
yeah.
linked 2 of your videos on my.
What's that?
I linked 2 of your videos on my video today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was this here grafting thing you've been doing is quite interesting. And all.
Okay, so here's a little sneak peek, spoiler alert, update that you might get from next week's video. You saw that big shakeout I did?
I just got done watching it.
Well, I just looked today at what my grafting take was. 84%.
And how many grafts do you do at a time? 30 or 40?
I've been doing 30.
Mhm.
When Lexi comes to graft, she'll do 15 and I'll do 30.
Mhm.
So I just count mine. And so my take was 84%. And I'm not saying that my shakeout thing worked, but I am saying that my graft was 84%. So I don't know what metrics I can use to see if that reset maneuver made a difference.
Well, I know for me, to be honest with you, I mean, I went out there, I grafted Monday real quick because I was doing hay. And I went out there today and I had a bunch of them. They were like 22 or 23 of them was okay. But then when I got into them today, I seen some of them, they've been chewed out or whatever. I don't know whether I got a Rogue Queen in there or something.
Oops.
and so I think it was like, I don't know, like maybe 16 or so. Oh, that's emerging. I can't. I don't. I think there's about 18.
Do what I did there. Shake them all out in the front. You got. I don't know if you run a queen excluder on your entrance like I do.
Well, what I really need to be doing, I need to find. I
Shake
need to
them all
get
out and that
myself
queen won't get back in.
a plastic queen excluder and cut one
Yeah,
and put it on that nuke.
I got a bunch of plastics that are broken, so I keep them around for that kind of thing. I got them up.
All right.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Shake them all out. You'll find that queen.
yeah. Good luck, because I mean, right now I got a nuke, and on the bottom of it, there's about 3 pounds of bees hanging off the screen bottom board. I don't know why they're underneath there, but they're there, and there's that many inside that machine, thing.
Yeah.
It's just full. But I'm catching myself in videos, and I'm like, okay, I have got to be highly, highly gentle with these darn cells. And I went out there today and I had a bunch of cells, and I guarantee there's 13 of them out there that hadn't hatched and should have hatched today. And I'm thinking to myself, I was taking them out of that their test cell, that 30 millimeter tray that's for test tubes. And the first grouping was fine. And I seen myself in the video where I'm picking them up in that square easy peasy cage, is catching that thing, and it's going bam, bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you those other 10 or 12 out there right now is a result of that.
Mm.
And yeah, well, I mean, I still got queens. I got about 18 of them sitting in JZBZ candy cage out there that I caged up this morning, and that kind of stuff. And it just, I bought that easy peasy incubator tray where you can put them in there and you can get your fingers on them without shaking them and stuff like that. And who's this Phil? Okay. Anyway, hopefully that'll, I've just got to be very conscious of handling all that stuff. Very, very gentle, like.
Yeah, you're right. It's so easy.
And then it takes a slight drop, and I think it makes a huge problem.
And not even something I think that you've noticed. I'm pretty gentle, but there was 3 that didn't emerge from the last round, and one of them was just pupated and it died for some reason. One of them was larvae sitting in the bottom of the cell, so that obviously fell off the jelly. So that would have been me, likely. And one of them I don't understand, because she looked like she was pretty well fully developed, but she was in there backwards.
I had the same thing, Brad.
Did you have one in backwards?
Last time, about the last week or so ago, I had 3 of them. I left them in the in the cell builder in the cages, and they never hatched. So I took them in the house here. I got myself my razor blade knife out.
Mm-hmm.
I cut 2 of them, and it was a larvae that just never developed.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of, I don't know, gooey. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, it looked like a bee, and it was dark like a carny, but her head was towards the top instead of towards the bottom.
Yeah.
And all that. And she was kind of dried and shriveled up like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was very curled up. Yeah.
Then,
been there, done that.
Yeah. Stank.
So, see, what else was I doing? Oh, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have Ryan Williamson on. They just finalized a date on the 20th on Friday night, and he's a queen breeder in Virginia, and he does a lot of VHS stuff, and constantly monitors the mites and all this kind of stuff. And that's Jerome Bee Farm. He got 4 queens from him. He sells virgins.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway, I had watched his video, and he was showing his banking, and he was banking cells, and I swear I seen the easy peasy cages. I recognized them.
Oh yeah.
And I said, he's letting them hatch out in that cell builder and getting fed immediately. And I said, and he said they would also get big and fat if they were left in there for, 3 or 4 days. And sure enough, I did the same thing, and he was right. I mean, and then another thing is like I said, like I think I said it on the show last night, that it takes all this stress out of trying to get to the incubator, to grab them while they're coming out so they don't starve and stuff like that and all that.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, Todd says I'm supposed to handle themselves like they're the finest popcorn.
That's good. That's
There's
true.
a lot. Todd, there's a lot of kernels that are laying around the bottom of my chair here. That's the problem.
I agree with that.
Charlie, do you know a guy named Jason Bragg?
Jason Bragg?
Yep.
Up in New River Ranch or New River Gorge?
I know he's in West Virginia.
Yeah, that's where he's at. Yeah, I've not met him, but I know him. He used to. He's a serious cream breeder.
Yep, he does a lot of AI.
And I knew him years ago. He was a person who taught in school, I think. And I think he might retire. He's got a back problem. I do know that. Last couple of years, he had a bear hit his yard one year, and he's buying like breeder queens like from Sue Kobe and places like that. And then she's taking them, and he's got probably $10,000 worth of artificial insemination. He had a 3D printer. I think he made up his own little what was it? A drone capturing device.
Yeah.
And he would sit there and capture 300 plus drones in order to squeeze the semen out of them, things like that. But I've seen it. I've been up at midnight on New Year's Eve, and his queens will go on sale. And I've been at midnight, and watching the sale, and I think he sold out on certain queens, like the first batch, within 5 or 10 minutes. And all people are like on top of it.
Yeah, he will give AI artificial insemination classes. I know a gentleman out of Jacksonville, Florida, and he actually just got back from Jason Bragg's place and trained.
Yeah, I've just seen. I watched him. I followed him on Facebook, and he was talking about he was having certain classes on certain days here recently.
Well, you can go up and do individual training with him on a day or a couple day course, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
on the equipment.
Yeah, he had a thing on his. He had another website where he was. He had videos of showing what he did to prep just to do AI. It was like you're going into a surgical room, and how he flushed and wiped and sanitized like all the tubings and stuff, all that machinery. And he was talking about at the one time about he went to one type of microscope, and he got a better microscope where he could look at what he was looking through the microscope could also be seen up on a big screen TV. things like that. And he had a really, really good video on taking a Chinese grafting tool and how to take it apart and how to hone it down, that tongue of it, in order to get that tongue just right.
Yeah.
And all that stuff he took off his website. He just kind of more of a sales website of just queens. Here's the queens you can get, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it's Appalachian B something or other. If I'm not mistaken, I can look him up here again.
Yeah, Clay says he went up to see Ryan. He's not too far.
It's Appalachian Queen Bees LLC. Looks like he's up in a town called Beckley, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe up there somewhere near Clay, and probably not too terribly far from you, I guess.
Beckley?
That's what this Facebook page says, anyway.
Who is? Jason, you mean?
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, Tom, but I think that's up in the mountains.
That's way up in the mountains, Tom. Yeah. That's up in coal mine country where my cousins came from. And Clay is down on the other side of the Shenandoah Valley. And Ryan is on the other side. Ryan is on the, I don't know what side of the mountain you would call it, towards Washington, D.C., that side of the mountain. And all.
Okay.
And all. But I think Clay, or no, not Clay, but Ryan and Jason Bragg are definitely, talking to each other about. And I think Ryan might have bought some, breeding stock from him or grafting stock. And stuff like that. But that's what he's doing. He's doing a lot of, he tests tremendously and he's all about genetics and trying to get to the point where not a whole lot of treatment, trying to become, and that's going to be one of my questions for him. I mean, and this is, amongst here with us, I've been at it for 16 years, and they have been talking about VHS or VSH, whatever which way you're supposed to say that. And years ago, and then you have all these different college, and especially the women in the colleges have developed a Minnesota mite being, and I had bought a what do you call it, ankle biter. You heard about that, and you had Minnesota Hygienics, and you had, I don't know, one after another coming out with these different genetic bees, and supposed to be hygienic and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, then it's kind of like, I was like, yeah, okay. And now there seems to be a resurgence of, I'll say, interest in it or something, or maybe more of a push about it. But my question is, all right, what does it do for us? I mean, I understand is it gonna alleviate treating, or is it just another tool in the toolbox where it reduces maybe the amount of treatments or stuff? I'm not sure. Has something gotten better here recently as far as, the breeding of these bees?
That's
Well,
kind of
there
always been my
are
question
those.
when you come to all these different kind of genetics for mite resistance.
Mm-hmm.
If they're all mite resistant, why we still have to treat,
Right.
Well, there are those who are like Corey and Randy Oliver and whatnot who are making progress in that and not treating. I think Corey hasn't treated in years, but a lot of Randy's stock he doesn't treat. So I think it's just a matter of monitoring and
I got a friend of mine, Ed Sharp. He's up here in Pennsylvania. He's about 2.5 hours from my house, maybe 2 hours. And he's kind of like Ryan. He has been working on, VHS, Queen,
VSH.
What is it? VHS? What is it?
VSH.
Varroa sensitive hygienic.
All right, VSH. I got to write that down. I get it so damn confused.
Hey, I think Melissa did that to you, is what it was.
All right. Anyway, I've been talking with him, and I said something about Ryan B. And he says, you ask him, is his bees nice bees? He says, I've had VSH queens and hives, and they did a great job pulling the mites out, but they were the meanest damn bees you ever did see. And he lives in an area where he has a bunch of kids and stuff. He lives in a community, houses around and stuff. He said, I can't have that. And he's pinched. I know what a VCR is. I know what Betamax is too.
Betamax.
How old are you, Charlie? Jeez.
Huh?
How old are you? Betamax? Gee.
Yeah, I remember that.
You want it? This is my favorite. I'm so old, and JW can probably relate to this. I'm so old, and this is a true statement too. I'm not joking. I'm so old that when I was in school, I learned how to do math on an abacus. I'm not kidding. I did.
Is that thing where they slide the balls across the wires?
Yeah, the beads. Yeah,
we had them too.
They had them in the classrooms. I don't remember ever working on them.
Well, I
It
learned how
was
to
just
do
a show and
math
tell thing, though,
on
with
an
us.
abacus.
But anyway,
I know what you're talking about, Brad. I'm not going to say anything.
he's back in the days when they used to keep with a stone chisel and
Yeah,
right out with
Yeah, JW's abacus was made out of stone, not wooden beads.
I was watching a YouTube video. It was about growing up in the 70s, and one of the big things that they talked about was when the teacher would come in with the pop quiz, and it would be on one of those Ditto machines. Everybody have to take that and just smell it, stick it right in their face and smell it.
Yeah.
That was like a smell you never forget.
Yeah,
And
you
it
could
says-
smell it coming down the hall when they was bringing the test in. You could smell
Yeah.
it.
And
Acetone.
and it said, they right by the machine, which was in the teacher's lounge, it says, "Do not sniff." But that's the first thing we did. Put it right to our face. They were all like moist and floppy sheets of paper when they first came off that machine.
Well, see Eddie's comment right there with the bees in Baton Rouge there. There's a guy, he's the president of the Pearl River Beekeepers in Mississippi, not far from me. He has Italian bees, and everybody always talks about how mean they are. This is a commercial guy, and he has like 5,000 hives generally, and he works most days without a bee suit.
Really? Wow.
So he said they're not mean. He said it's how you treat them is what they're going to do to you. So
Well, I look at Brad here in the darn shorts, and let me tell you something. I was in a hive today where I was transferring from a nuke to a 10 frame. Now, I will have to say this. The storm was a-coming. The clouds in the sky were coming, and they were like, don't be bothering us now.
yeah,
And I'll tell you one thing, they were on me.
Oh, I went out today and I just had to check the cell starter, and rain was coming probably in half an hour, and I had to be quick. I took a couple.
Them bees were in my face, and I had on that suit of mine. I got it's cut on that mesh a little bit there, and they know to go right there my wrist and try to 2 or 3 of them hit me there and all. But anyway, my question is, if all this stuff, the VSH, why isn't the commercial people, why haven't they went and, okay, we're producing, I can't produce VHS or produce mated queens in any kind of volume to sell locally. I can produce plenty of virgins. and that kind of a thing. But I mean, that's why everybody's down the deep south, because they're
My answer is they don't have time for that. They don't have time for that.
time for what though, Joey? I mean, all right, if you buy a breeder queen that is bona fide, certified, whatever.
But the guys I know, it's just a big cycle. When they come in our area to requeen all their colonies, they're coming from California. They got to split them all, get them requeened, and by June, have them sent up north to the Dakotas. So, and they just keep making that.
Yeah,
big
but see, you're
circle.
talking about a migratory beekeeper. I'm talking about.
Well, you said commercial, so that's what
I'm talking about. Like Will Banks down in Georgia and Hardeman's down in Georgia, where they're stationary. They've got 6,000 to 8,000 hives, and they're selling bees and selling queens. And I'm like, why aren't these people, pushing the genetic lines in their breeder stock to get it out? And, if we had people like that, where everybody was at least trying to get VSH stock, which is being shoved out throughout the United States through them now as just common bees.
Well, one question I would have that might, lead to part of that answer would be: are the big time commercial queen producers selling all the queens they produce? Are they selling everything they can produce?
I would
Now?
say so. Yeah, probably.
Well, then why change?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're
Also, go ahead, Brett.
no, I just if you're selling everything, like I don't mean to be pig-headed about it or anything. It's kind of like my honey, right? It just sells, right? So if you don't want it or you want something different, then go get something different. It doesn't break my heart because because there's
I
behind
agree with
there's
you.
somebody
there,
standing behind you that'll buy it.
it's like with me. I'm selling runny honey,
Yeah,
and everybody and them other folks are out there selling cream.
and there's a lot of
And
work
I'm like,
in
well,
that.
why should I?
You look at the work that Corey does to rubber stamp those queens and to get the confidence of customers that that's what he's producing, and all of the testing that he does. I mean, God, the guy does so much testing to kind of certify that this is what's he's producing. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. You got to hire people. It takes a lot of time to track all that stuff. The only one. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Also, their customer base is mostly other commercial beekeepers, right?
Yeah.
And those guys are going to be replacing their queens every year anyway, probably.
Yeah.
So there's no market for them for that. If they were sending those bees out to backyard beekeepers, they're going to keep them 2 or 3 years. But I doubt they are.
Did y'all see the intro, the very end of my intro tonight?
I didn't see it.
Well, you have to go back and watch it. That little colony I showed at the end of that intro, that's been one of my utility nukes. I kept robbing from her every couple of weeks, taking brood from her. And now she's got 2 deeps and 2 mediums. That's last year's queen. Everybody says get rid of your old queens.
That's the zombie theory, right?
I'm going to let them get rid of her when they want to.
Yeah.
That's what
You
I'm
keep
gonna
those. If she's laying, you keep her around.
Yeah, I'm set up my own little zombie nuke yard this year.
Perfect.
It only has 2 left in it. It only had 6 or 7, and I used one today. It was last year's. It was a green queen, and there's 2 more reds still out there that are cranking away.
Oh yeah. If a queen is laying, I'm keeping her. And
I thought about stealing the brood and putting it in another hive, but there's nothing for them to collect. That's just a waste. Let them keep it until something starts to come in.
We've been pinching a lot of queens here just because they're really going nowhere, and So we'll just clean that out, find the queen, get rid of the queen, and then break that up into single frame mating nukes, just to frame a brood and some bees, just to mate the new queens. And then, hopefully they'll take a foothold from there. But there's a few that are actually laying. They're not doing as well as they should. Like this one here, for example. This is what is it? It was the 5th of June. I think I took this picture. It's not even filled a single yet. So that's certainly not performing like it should. But they're not, they're not as far back as some. So I'll just let them continue on, and then when I have mated queens in the corner, then she gets a new mated queen, because they've got a little more resource in there than just a kind of a zombie dying colony sort of thing.
See if I can find this video while y'all talking.
What's that?
I was gonna see if I can find that video I was talking about right here. This was supposed to be one of my utility nukes. I got tired of pulling frames out of it and giving it to other hives to make them strong. So I just decided to put them in a 10 frame.
Good one.
A few weeks ago. Then I put them a deep on a couple of weeks after that. And about a week and a half ago, I put that medium on there. This was the last year's queen. Everybody says, oh, you don't want to keep your old queens, you want to get rid of them. So they're still growing. After I robbed from this nuke every week or every couple of weeks, just to make other production hives stronger.
Yep. Exactly. If she's laying eggs.
Yeah.
She's laying eggs.
When I pulled that queen out of that hive, I gave her two frames. I pulled one with food in it and one with brood on it, and the bees that were actually on those frames. I mean, I slowed her down for weeks. When she started building back up, I kept pulling that brood. I was doing like 4 different nukes like that. I'd pull it and put it in another colony that I wanted to grow.
Yep.
And I finally I got where I didn't have nowhere else to put it, so I just started putting boxes on top of. Now I did add, when I put that second box on, a couple frames of honey, capped honey, and some drone comb. And they went through that. They filled it up fast. And then I put that other medium on there. Now they hadn't totally filled that medium up, but there's so many bees in there, they needed that 4th box. So I put a 4th box on it.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That's resource hives.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
Now I know. I mean, when you keep taking from them, I think it's got something to do with when you're taking young bees and brood, and you're getting all that fill source in there, just building up.
And the rate at which she can lay really is, it's governed by a lot of things, but one of those most important things is the workforce, right? If she's got a lot of bees who can take care of new brood that she can lay, then she can lay as fast as she can lay. And we're all told, well, 2,000 eggs a day kind of thing. So she can lay full speed. I think she can lay a lot more than that too.
Yeah.
Now that's a deep frame both sides in 3 days.
Who'd we lose?
Charlie, you made Charlie mad.
Oh, dang, Charlie.
We had to go cook some more popcorn, I guess. Didn't want anybody making fun of him.
There he is.
You're back.
No, I tried to cover for you, Charlie. They wouldn't let me.
Yeah, I'd kind of got in the habit of pulling queens and like every other year and replacing them. But I'm just going to let that colony decide when they need to replace them. I
That's
think that's what I'm
exactly the way I feel.
Yeah.
If they're whether they're 6 months old or 3 years
Yeah.
old, when they
It's
don't
kind
need
of a genetic trait, I think, and that's something that Ian's done really well. His stock replaces themselves quite nicely.
They can do it better than I can because when I force them to do it, it seems like something always happens.
Yeah, I agree on that 100%.
So sometimes, like a super seizure queen, it really is uh, the best queen in a way because it was laid to be a queen, right? It was a queen right from the moment the
Yeah.
queen laid that egg. The difference, I think, can be is sometimes they try and supersede in a poor season, late in the season when the weather's not warm, or in a season where there's not that many drones, or there's maybe a dearth or something, so there's not very good nutrition. Whereas swarm queens, they're always in season.
You actually saying you think super seizure queens beats your swarm queens?
I don't
I,
know.
I
I,
don't
I,
agree.
um, but super seizures, like genetically, I think, as far as the fact that they're not like an emergency queen that at one stage in their development switch from being a worker to a queen.
Yeah, so
That can be problematic.
Well, it kind of depends on the background of that queen too. If it's a swarm, a lot of times they will supersede a swarm after they get reestablished. That's probably a better queen there. Where if you have a newly mated queen that you might have put a cell in there and they've made it, got her mated and everything, and she's laying. I've seen where they supersede those young queens right off the bat because something wasn't right. But
Yeah,
good
I'm
good
just
old
thinking that
queen being
those times
superseded is a different story. You know what I
those times
mean?
when they try to supersede in a poor season,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes they'll try and do that, and then I don't think that's really optimal. They have to have good nutrition and whatnot, and they have to mate well. But a super seizure in peak season when there's good nutrition and lots of drones, absolutely.
I think sometimes when a natural supersedure for like a swarm and they superseded, it's kind of a planned thing. And I think I've actually seen them after a new queen started laying, push the old queen out. And it never changed the laying pattern. Just pushed her out the door. I caught her. I didn't know what was going on with it.
Hmm. I've seen that too. I
Yeah.
walk along and there's a queen sitting on the ground,
Yeah.
a marked queen.
Hmm. Our old mentor used to tell us sometimes when you see a supersedure, he always told us to leave them alone, let them do what they got to do, and that's kind of what I've always done. But he said sometimes the queen, the the board of directors in the colony will decide because the flow is not coming in, it's the queen's fault, so they'll want to replace her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that I agree with that
Yeah,
idea.
she slows down because they're not bringing nothing in, but they're gonna blame
Yeah,
it on her because she
yeah.
stops laying.
She's the first victim of something's wrong,
Yep.
right? I remember talking to James when he brought those bees here. We talked about that, and I said, whenever you move bees like that, there's going to be some supersedures, and I think it's because of just that traumatic experience of banging down the highway for 2 days.
Yeah.
That the bees kind of get all worked up and they say something is wrong. It must be the queen's fault, and then they say she's got to go. But it's just my own theory. But I know that you you introduce a nice mated queen, and then in about 4 days you go in the hive to check, and you watch the bees ball her right in front of you. Like, why is that? I think that's sort of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
They're not very confident in that queen yet. You've disturbed them. Something's wrong. It must be her fault.
Then you get one that's a drone layer, and they don't even try to supersede her.
Yeah. I got a drone layer right now. One of those Buckfest packages I got. She's spitting out blanks.
Hmm.
She's got both going on in there. So as soon as I have a mated queen in my pocket, I'm gonna head over. Well, I'll take Brian's advice and not put the mated queen in my pocket. I'll put it in a bag and head over there and give them a nice fresh mated queen.
Hmm.
Brad, you want to know something that's aggravating, probably for you, about just what you said? In the package that you received, you have a drone layer, right?
Yeah.
Which means if whomever pulled that queen had their eyes open and not closed, they would have understood that that queen was not an acceptable queen. It was probably highly.
I don't know that you can tell all the time from the outside, though.
Well, if they mated a queen
by where she pulled, yeah, and I don't know that it's always the same. I've actually had queens lay normally for a short period and then have it. There's a physical problem they can have. I know there's the like when you say drone layer, are you talking about a queen who's mated poorly? She's mated with genetics that are too close to her own. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I was meaning maybe she wasn't mated well at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that depends on. You said drone layer. What I don't know what that means in your specific case here.
Yeah.
I guess I just assumed and took it as she never laid eggs or what other fertilized eggs.
Yeah. Well, this one's laying both, and that's why I know. That's why I know it's her problem because she is laying fertilized workers.
Okay.
She's also laying drones.
I see.
I think that can be a couple of different things. Those could be, hey Brian, those could be diploid drones.
Yeah.
Right. So that it could just be mated with genetics that were too close to her own.
Correct. Yeah.
And I understand, the people around here who I trust say that also they can have a physical problem and just simply have a blocked ovariole.
I see.
And so therefore she thinks she's fertilizing that egg and it's just not working.
Yeah.
So she thinks she's laying a worker and she's just not fertilizing the worker. There's a man, Mark Miller.
Uh-oh, he
There
disappeared
goes.
faster than he came.
It was a blank.
So, regardless, the solution is the same.
I've had a queen lay up a whole box, a deep box, put the second box on, and she get it laid up, and then all of a sudden, nothing but drones.
Oh yeah.
A marked queen. She just, I don't know if she ran out of the right semen,
Yeah.
or she got injured.
Was that a new queen?
That was a brand new queen that year.
Yeah. Yeah. I had two queens last year. Remember, I got those 50 loner hives. So those were made up with queens that were purchased from, an American producer. I won't go any further to say who the producer was. And two of those hives had virgin queens in them. Two of those, and they were, the cage was still in the hive, so I know where those queens came from. And they were very obviously, to the eye, virgin queens. This is crazy, eh?
Interesting.
Picking virgin queens out of a mating nuke and putting them in a cage.
They didn't even allow them to get mated, huh?
I mean, you could look at them, and anybody who's ever seen a mating queen would know there's something wrong with that queen.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, on some of the mated queens that I've been getting back here pretty quickly, my timing may have been off on a couple of them, and I went back and looked at them pretty quickly thereafter, which I know that's not the a desirable practice to mess with anything that's newly mated. But regardless, I did. And I've had some queens mate within just a couple of days.
I've had two, in the past, usually in July, because July mating success is spectacular here.
Okay.
And I've gone into, because I have my schedule, right? When I put them in the hive and whatnot, and I'll look in that hive in like 10 days, and there's sealed brood in that hive.
Yeah.
10 days after I put this virgin in there, and I'll do the math back, and I'll realize that she was laying in 2 days after I put her in that hive. Like 3 days after she emerged, she was laying.
That's
It's just
amazing.
amazing, because it goes against everything that we're told about. Well, it takes her, this
That's right.
before she'll fly, and yeah, not always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why at times I do question science as well.
Well, I'm learning that there's things that and we need the science to understand this stuff. But there's stuff that works in science, and there's also stuff that works in the apiary. And I've had discussions, and not heated discussions, but disagreement discussions with academics that I say, well, this is what I do, and it works. And I say, well, that's not the way it works. Well, guess what? In my apiary, that's exactly the way it works. So I don't know if they're different bees or not, but and really, at the end of the day, what matters is what works in the apiary, right? If the science doesn't work in the apiary, then it's really irrelevant.
Yeah.
So if it works in the apiary, it doesn't matter if there's science behind it.
Y'all was throwing around the drone layer a while ago.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to throw in there, be careful when you mark them queens and don't damage that front leg, or she will be a drone layer.
Yeah.
Oh,
because
I see.
She can't measure the cell.
Right.
So she'll be a drone layer.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful there.
Mark, does she use her antennae to do that as well? Is that a combination?
Yes. I don't know about the antenna, but I do know about the leg, the front leg.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't even think about that, but that makes a good point.
Mark, maybe you can help us with the correct terminology. I'm not sure it's the correct terminology I'm using, but this queen is laying both. She's laying workers, but she's also laying way too many drones in the wrong sort of cells. So she's laying drones without knowing it, for, I understand, one of two reasons.
That could be her, and that could be a worker bee too, you think?
Well, I don't know. Do you have worker bees laying at the same time as a queen?
I don't know why it would happen that way, but
I didn't look close enough to see if there was worker eggs, the typical worker eggs in the cell. I didn't look that closely. But is that also called a drone layer, or is a drone layer 100%?
I mean, I want a queen that's going to lay both, but not in the worker cell.
Yeah, well, that's the whole
thing.
So these are not drone cells.
I would look to see if she's got a damaged front leg.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It's interesting to know why she's doing it, but the fact is she's doing it, and the solution is always the same.
I agree.
I'm not going to fix it.
I got a question. I've never thought about this. Anytime that I'm talking to a class and I tell them that queen measures that cell, I've always assumed she's measuring the width. Is she measuring the width or the depth and or width?
Well, it'd be the width. The depth is the same, I think.
Yeah, probably so. I think they are a little deeper too, though. I'm not sure.
They're
I've
deeper
never
with
measured
the
the depth.
But I don't think they are before the cap.
But yeah, because I know the caps are still bullet shaped, right? Not flat like a worker cap.
Right. It's interesting.
That was one of my first observances as a new beekeeper 10 years ago. That the depth of comb, that brood comb is always the same depth. Honeycomb, not. Right? Honeycomb is as deep as it can be with the available space, kind of thing.
Yep.
You can't space out your brood frames to get super big nurse bees.
Yeah,
They're going to be the same size no matter
that's
what.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Y'all have to excuse me. I'm just getting up putting a swarm.
Well, I want to tell you something, boys. I hate to interrupt you, but you're getting too high tech for me. I'm going to bed.
Sorry.
No, I'm wore out. Absolutely. I've had a rough day, and I'm going to check out of here and let Mr. Tom Prater or Todd Prater.
Todd
Hey,
Prager.
JW, how'd you grow that chicken that
He's
big
young,
back
got
there?
smart enough to take my place, I think. So come on in here, Todd. I'm going to check out. Good night, fellas. I'm being a smart
Good
aleck.
night, JW.
Wore out.
Hi, JW.
Can't hardly
See you later, Miss JW. Take
Get some
care.
rest.
Thank you. Good night.
I had one of those nukes do the exact same thing. You know, I go and check for capped brood. I marked it on the lid, thought everything was good. Went back a week and a half later and found like a frame and a half of drone brood. And I'm like, what did I switch the lids up or something?
Yeah.
So finally I get over to the last frame and there's that one frame that had nice worker, a nice little pattern of worker. But on the outside, it started being drones. And then from there over, it was just drones. So,
Ran out of juice.
yeah,
I've
well,
had it
that was
the
a
other
new,
way
that was a
too.
split, Brad. So that was a new queen. So she just
Yep.
didn't get very
Yeah.
well mated at all. So
I've had it the other way too. I've had it where they lay about half and half.
yeah,
That's all, man. This is a bad mated queen, brand new
Yeah.
queen.
Yeah.
But I give her a little time, and when she gets on that next frame, she gets her rhythm going, and it's all good worker brood.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that too,
Yeah,
but not the opposite.
So
Yeah.
in the chat, Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping said it's not the depth. This goes back to something we were talking about just a few minutes ago. I see queens laying a barely drawn foundation. I think we've all seen that where you put some foundation and the bees draw it just a couple of millimeters, and then she lays an egg in it, and the bees go, "Oh, better get on that," and they have to, draw that right up to support that. So that kind of speaks to the idea that it could be something to do with the depth.
Brad, whenever I see that in a colony, it gets me excited because I know there's motivation there.
Oh yeah, they're pushing. The queen is pushing them,
Yes,
pushing
she is.
the
I
wax producers. It's like, okay, let's do this.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that gets me excited. I see that and I'm like, oh, there's motivation there. I'm definitely all about that. A queen that's pushing that colony.
Yeah.
Oh, she's back, Todd. She's back.
There's
Oh.
too much testosterone on this cat tonight.
How you doing, Melissa?
Good. Has he been behaving tonight?
Been good the whole
Mhm.
time. I paid.
He's been unusually quiet.
Mm-hmm. Well, while you guys were talking about some of that stuff, it piqued my interest. So I started looking at some papers on online, actually. Yeah, so I was kind of reading a little bit about some of that because it piqued my interest there. I had a curiosity I needed to itch.
I did hear about a new paper coming up that does kind of challenge some of the old ideas about where queens mate and DCAs and that kind of thing. And it goes kind of back a little bit to what Brad's saying. Science is great, but you make a study that demonstrates one particular thing, and then it kind of becomes mantra that's what happens. And it doesn't mean every other situation has been tested in some sort of formal study. It's just kind of what gets repeated over and over again because one study actually tested that thing.
That's right.
And not everything else.
And I think we a lot of us look at the research and the papers, and we take what that would determine their conclusion, and okay, this is how it works and kind of thing. But really, a good scientist will never say that. They'll say more work
Yeah,
needs to be done,
that's right.
or
That's right.
until somebody proves something otherwise. This is what this indicates, kind of thing. A good scientist, it's this idea that the science is settled is absolute poppycock. Science is never settled.
It's an
Mhm.
ongoing process.
It's always, fit to be questioned. All in everything, I don't want to get too political, but in everything, not just bees.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Bees in the Weeds. He was at the conference there, and he went over to Kent Williams's shindig over there where he teaches.
Mm-hmm.
Watch, Kent Williams taught me how to graft. That guy, he is a master beekeeper. He's got more knowledge in his head than anybody I've ever met. And he's got him on that video. And he's talking about the stuff that Tom sent me, that information about the pheromones out of the feet and out of the mandibular gland. And then Kent's sitting there, he says, he says, on this first video, he says, they got the anal gland there. He said, that's why the pheromone from there, he said, them bees open up so that queen can just keep on walking. And then he says it dissipates so fast that they come back in behind her. And I'm like, where is he getting all this information at? I mean, I have never read any queen books that had that kind of detailed information out there.
Yeah.
And then
It's interesting for experienced beekeepers, but when you're dealing with new people or people who aren't even beekeepers yet, boy, I think you have to keep it higher level, to be putting too much of that intricate detail into things, plus the fact that there are almost never absolutes, and that's why I say it like that, because there are almost never absolutes, because it's not an absolute statement, right? there's always things that go against what we say, what we're told is the way it works, and what we know works. Hey, this works 99% of the time. Nothing ever works 100% of the time.
Right.
Well, what's the ongoing joke? Like the bees don't read the books, right?
No.
So they're going to do what they're going to do when they want to do it. We can have theories and take for what is normal maybe, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen 100% of the time.
Somebody told me years and years ago, and I think it was a really interesting way to put it. They said education is a continual declining spiral of deception. Right? So at a very high level, when you first enter a topic, there's a lot of deception, a lot of givens that you have to sort of just go by, because you got to have a place to start. And then you continue to decline into minutia and detail that's sometimes irrelevant, but it's detail nonetheless. And so I think it's really tricky. And I think that's where I have an advantage teaching new beekeepers, because I don't know very much, and I can't get into the weeds with them as much. I just, it's just, and they say, well, why is that? I don't know. It's like, that's just the way it is, kind of thing. If you want to know the fine details of that, then you go ahead and learn that. But I'm just telling you that this is kind of how it's going to work for you, just to get them started, right?
Sometimes it's hard to talk to new beekeepers because you don't know where to stop, right? Because you're like, okay, let's tell them this, but if we tell them this, they're going to be so lost and confused,
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we got it,
And the fact that then the next beekeeper they talk to is also going to be telling them the truth, but it's going to sound like it's a contradiction.
That's right.
Yeah.
Beekeeper, and it's, well, that's not what so and so said, and then they'll misinterpret what so and so said and tell you that they said the opposite when they didn't really say the opposite. It's just a lack of context.
Yeah,
really.
So to build on that, Brian and I had a lengthy conversation here this afternoon, speaking directly toward.
Wait, you had a lengthy conversation?
I did.
Tom had
Brian
a lengthy
did.
conversation.
That's unheard of.
Brian listened to Tom talk for a long time.
Actually, no.
Just say it the way it is.
It's really a back and forth, is it not, Brian?
Totally is. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and when we were talking about that, trying to understand that a little better for the EMBA conference coming up in February and how we were going to work a few things out, And, we were bouncing things back and forth off of one another and said, well, what about this? And it kind of ties back to, okay, when you go from that first year to the second year, what's the most important information you need to download, but you don't need to go overboard and just create a bunch of white noise. So we were trying to figure out what that meant and what that looked like and how we wanted to
balance it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what you need to go from the novice just to the next level.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because one of the comments that we got in our survey with the workshop last year was some people that thought that the experienced class was too much information for them.
Yeah.
But the beginner class definitely was not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed something just like a step or two down. So
I could see where that'd be a tough target.
Yeah.
Well,
if anybody could help me figure out what that's going to look like for us,
topics.
It's the guy sitting down there on this side down here.
I did that right. Holy cow.
I know. I always have to think about which way to go.
I was like, do it opposite. That's all I thought.
I don't think everybody's screen is the same.
I know, right? It's all off. So I have a comment to add to what this discussion is, and I really like where this is going. So, Brian, you've had some conversations with Jim Masucci.
Yeah.
Jim Masucci is a researcher of over 20 years in the field of Varroa, and he actually led still to date some of the largest honeybee field trials, and a lot of those actually occurred up in your neck of the woods, Brad, up in Canada.
Okay.
So I don't know all the details about everything, but the one thing that I was going to point out there, so Jim Masucci being a researcher for quite some time, him and I would take trips and go pick up this or that. And so we'd have these conversations that I'd ask him a lot of details about things. So you can't ask a researcher a question and ever get a yes or a no. It will not happen.
No, it won't.
I actually made it a point one day for 45 minutes, and I was just asking questions, and I didn't care what the answer was. I was looking for a yes or a no, and I never got it.
That guy's definitely a fire hose of scientific information.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Yeah. Open the nozzle and hold on.
Thanks, David.
So the one thing that I had said, so I had cited a couple different papers when him and I were in conversation, and I don't remember specifically what the conversation was on there. But the one thing that I do recall taking away from it was, and I said, well, hold on. You're saying something a little bit different. When I read this paper, it said X, Y, and Z. And then it started a whole nother conversation. And he said, okay, he goes, well, how do I explain this? He says, basically, he goes, okay. He goes, when you have a theory, you're a researcher and you have a theory about something, in your mind, you might develop this hypothesis of what that's going to look like. He goes, so sometimes as human nature goes, you might try to, I don't know the best way to word this, view the science in one direction and be a little closed-minded the opposite way because your hypothesis is one direction.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the second thing he said was, when you're a researcher, and he goes, you have grad students, he goes, guess who does all the grunt work? The students do. He goes, so you're kind of relying on them to be accurate about, if you need to count bees, they're coming back in, some very mundane task that is just like, it's not fun. You have to rely that they were doing a good enough job to get the accurate data down. So basically what he did is, and I told him, I'm like, man, I'm going to quit hanging out with you. You're trying to turn me into a pessimist here, And he started laughing at me. And he goes, well, you just learn to not take everything for what is written down. It's not stone. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, fair enough. So I don't know. It's an interesting approach. I never really, if I would read a paper and it was done by Dr. So-and-so, I'm like, oh, well, that's gotta be fairly accurate, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
So.
And earlier I was saying that there's academia and there's practice, right? And the old saying that in theory there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is.
That's right.
Right? But even in practice we have the same problem, because I may do this 50 times, and then the problem is there's 1,000 variables to what I'm doing, and all those variables are the same until the 51st time. 2 of those variables change, but I didn't notice that, or I was sloppy or lazy, which is usually my case, and then it changes. My result is different, and I'm going, well, why did it not work this time?
Right.
And I have to look at that. And so that's why I can't even rely on the practice that I know works, because sometimes I goof and I change something unknowingly, unwittingly, and then I change the outcome, and then I don't know. This is my wintering, right? When I started keeping bees, my losses were 5% or 0 or 10%, not 98%.
Yeah.
Something changed. So I have to go back, take out the variables, get back to basics.
Which is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of stuff I can't change.
Sure.
It would cost me tens of thousands of dollars to change some of that stuff. And there's some of that stuff I can't change, because when I was wintering at 5% loss, I was running 50 colonies. Well, I need to run more than 50 colonies to support my business, so I can't really do that. But fact remains, I need to simplify. I need to break it down.
Sure.
Find out what's going on. Something's going on.
Yep.
Do you think Brad's old comb has something to do with that?
Not in my case. My comb is really not very old. I cull it regularly. I cull a lot of comb, and I rotate comb aggressively.
I think some of mine. I'm getting into that 5th year, and I'm getting a whole lot of really old comb, and the bees just seem weaker.
I heard somebody say on a video, I think it was recently, they talked about, this comb is getting old, and I don't like that it might have viruses. Well, time gets rid of the viruses if you leave comb unused for a period of time, and it's months. It's not that long. I think the biggest problem with old comb is chemicals.
I agree.
Right, because a lot of those chemicals never leave, especially some of the old mite treatments that were used 20 years ago. Some of those are really nasty, and then they work together, right?
And the cell size shrinking from all the cocoons that are left behind.
Yeah,
So-
that's definitely bad, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that variable, I'm confident that variable is not. In 2023, I culled 750 frames of comb out of my operation, melted down, right? And this year I've culled 200 or 300 more frames that will be melted.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things that has been great about making and selling nukes, is we're able to rotate those frames out of our operation.
Yeah, give somebody else your problem.
Well, none of ours are that old, you know what I mean? So it's
I get it.
But then if we do have some that are getting older frames that I don't really care for, we just move those to the outside, so they turn those into honey frames. So it doesn't matter what they look like then, because they're just going to store nectar or pollen in them.
Yeah.
Resources.
I've said it before, but my method is I'll pull, hopefully there's not a bunch of syrup in them, but I'll pull anything I want to cull. I'll pull above the queen excluder and put newer frames in their place. And then when those older frames show up coming out of my extractor, I can see that, and I can cull it at that point. I'll set it aside into the burn pile or the melting pile or something.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed just for observation is like if you've got a honey super that's got, say, 2 or 3 really old honeycombs in it, they'll fill them up first before they'll fill the pretty well new ones up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They'll fill them old ones up. Now, when I think about that, I think, why are they doing that? They're sterilizing that old comb.
Oh, yeah. There's peroxide in that honey, isn't
Makes
there?
sense.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a good
So,
Good point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
right. That's just by observation, but that makes sense to me.
Mhm.
It does.
I'm gonna have to
So-
write that one down.
Yeah.
Roy is asking what I'm going to do with your older feed frames. Boy, that's always a good question, right? I like to feed as many as I can instead of feeding them syrup. I have to be judicious, though, to make sure I'm not putting something back in there that I think is contaminated in any way. I don't think a heavy contamination is the problem. Plus, bees can put up with a lot more non-ideal feed in the summer than they can in the winter. Winter is really tricky. They have to have just perfect feed in the winter here. So the if there's virus on comb and I leave it sit for a few months, then the virus on comb will dissipate to a great degree.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, late season, if I'm making splits, if I'm making nukes and things, I can always put a frame of feed in there. Will do them nothing but good. Sometimes I'll set some of them out to rob. I don't have beekeeper neighbors, so it's not a problem that way. So they can rob the frames clean. Sometimes they make a really big mess of the frames doing that, though. They'll shred the comb.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good question. Most of it's stored right now, and I'm hoping the wax moths don't destroy it on me.
So let me ask you guys a question. Here's an observation that I feel like I've noticed over the last maybe 2 years. When I have a colony drawing a lot of new comb, but I still have some good older used comb in there, when a queen comes back mated, I find that they will store any incoming nectar and pollen in the older frame, and the queen will immediately go to the new comb. Does anybody else notice that, or is there anything to that?
I don't know that I've noticed it. I have noticed honeycomb. They don't clean honeycomb. You put a honeycomb frame in, if it has this or that, they don't clean it. They just fill it with honey. Brood comb, on the other hand, they clean that. So maybe that has something to do with it, that the new comb is maybe cleaner and it's just less work, because bees, they'll always do the least they can do.
Yeah, efficiency.
They're very efficient that way. So I don't know. That's my first guess.
Yeah.
I'd see that, Tom, what you're saying, because a lot of times, because I use foundationless, they'll just have a couple of teardrop shapes of brand new comb,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll have every cell of that laid up, and then half of the older comb next to it.
Yeah.
Or across from it. Yeah, I see that. They do really like that new comb.
Well, that kind of goes back to saying what we were talking about slightly earlier, Brad, when I said, if I go into a small nuke with a newly mated queen, and when you start going back and you're looking at the size larvae in there, or you see some capped, you're like, wait a minute, how is that? And you're trying to go back in your head, maybe look at a note that you put on top of the hive, and you're like, she would have had to have been mated within a couple of days. And I'm like, again, the book does not say that.
No, academia would not agree with that.
No, that's right.
It takes so many days for that queen to mature, for her wings to harden, yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
Then it takes so many days for her to go on her mating flights over so many days, et cetera, et cetera. But you've seen it and I've seen it. I've done the math. The math, so either the academia's rules about the queen are wrong, or their life cycle about how long it takes an egg to hatch, etc., is wrong.
Yes.
So one of those isn't a rule.
Well, I actually had a question myself, because typically whenever I make a large move on a colony besides just adding a super. I don't really care about that. When I'm making a large move about a split or introducing a virgin or a mated queen, I mark that on the top, and I have a simple note that I'll put on top there. So when I go back and look at it, I can know, oh, that's only been in there for a week, and I made that split with the swarm cell. I'll leave it alone, right? Sometimes I get a little curious about things, and I just pop them open to see if I can see it in a merged cell and or tore down cells. And I don't usually use smoke, and I'd say just a light footprint inside there. Again, not what we're supposed to be doing is interrupting a virgin queen, but sometimes the curiosity part of me gets the better. And I'm like,
that's the hardest part of beekeeping, raising queens, is the 10 days after she
that's right
emerges.
Because when somebody asks me, I'm like, leave it alone, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's more of a do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the parent deal.
I totally get it.
Do that, right? And they do it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I scratched that itch by just using one nuke. And I'm like, that's the one nuke that I'm going to bug whenever I get itchy. And I'm going to leave all the other ones alone.
Yeah.
I just stay busy enough that I don't get to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes though, Brett, I've had to go back on top of those, and I'm like, why is there? And I'm like, hold on. I pull up the lid again. I look at it, and I'm like, and I'm going back through, and I'm doing some quick adding, and I'm like, holy cow, is that right? And I go back in there and I look in the colony again to make sure that I have really seen what I had just saw there. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, is there a second queen in here? And you're flipping it around, right? And like, no. I'm like, that's got to be right. So I don't know. It's just
Joey, I'll share my little calendar to kind of show you what I've been using to keep my wits about me. So I don't know if it's big enough to see. Can you all see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
So this just a little spreadsheet I made.
Hang
so
on.
This is where it starts out.
Where'd it go?
It was up there. There you go.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I gray them out when the day has passed. So today's June 7th. So it's grayed out to June 7th, right? And so anything else, a yellow thing is when I have to, make sure I'm on top of something. I have to make sure I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow I'll have some queens emerging in my incubator. I have to make mating nukes, but I've already made them. They're in the building. I have to move them outside and do cell checks on them. So, Monday I need to move cells to the incubator, and then I just keep going, graft after graft every 4 days. And then every so often I'll refresh my builder, get more sealed brood, and maybe I'll do that shakeout thing again, that sort of thing. So it just helps me to stay organized, because if you kind of look down to the template here, each one of these is a set. So I can take that and I can copy that
Paste it.
to
Yeah.
start on any day. Like I could copy that, paste it right here, and all the timing is exactly the same for each.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Each set, right? So, yeah. So then, these are. Let's see. The first round are in. So by the book, mating flights will happen or begin on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is my date.
So Brad, if I don't mind interrupt you for 1 minute. You said that's when the mating flight should begin per the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking at 7 days? Is that what we're gauging?
You can get 5.
7 days from emergence.
Yes.
5, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 5.
Okay.
5 days. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not a very meaningful number, really. Neither is this, right? Check for eggs on the 22nd. This is just when I go to my mating yard on June 22nd, I can look at all the lids that say R1, round 1, and I can check the eggs on those. Yeah, exactly. It's just something to be consistent. If there's no eggs, I can wait longer. And then this is, I don't know how many days, but it's about 16 days out or so.
Okay.
I'll just say, well, if they get to that point and there's no eggs, then I'll either pinch the virgin or reuse the nuke if there's no queen in it or whatever. So
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, it's just I just copy that year after year, and then I can write in my how many I grafted, so I know how many nukes to make, or how many were accepted, so I know how many nukes to make, and then keep a track of my percentage. I got 44 there, 24 there. I forget how many cells I have on this round. This one was my last one, is really good, 84%.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, you're grafting after they cap the cells, they're going into an incubator, correct?
That's right.
And then when they, so you hatch them out as virgins, and then can you release them into your splits?
I direct release them. So this is this calendar here is not exactly what I'm doing, because this says move to finisher. I'm not using a finisher this year.
Okay.
Right. So that doesn't apply, and that's why it doesn't have a yellow
Okay, I gotcha.
cell. And I always put a day early for emergence, because a lot of times they'll start coming out a day early if I select larva that's a little bit older. But that's the real day for emergence, which, if we see here, graph number 2 is I'll check the incubator before I go to bed, which I shouldn't, because I don't know if I'm going to walk them out there tonight. But yeah, I'll cage them in, because the incubator's in the house. I'll cage them and then walk them out direct release into the nukes.
And you typically do that within how many hours?
Well, at worst, it'll be overnight.
Okay. So
Right.
not long.
Yeah, a few hours.
Now,
usually...
would they be in your possession long enough for you to need to water and feed those, or typically not?
The incubator runs about 75% humidity, so it's nice and humid in there, and there's a little bit of honey in the bottom of the cage.
Okay, so she's fine.
So I've never had one die or whatnot, so it works for me, pretty good so far.
Yeah, my experience is if I pay attention to when that queen should emerge, I cannot be neglectful by one day. If she emerges and she sits in there for even short of 24 hours without food or water or attendance, she's dead.
You gotta get on them. I was going to check them about supper time, and I didn't, but I did check them earlier today, so hopefully there's nobody waiting for attention right now, because she's not going to get it. But that would have been an older one anyway, so who knows? I don't know if it's too old, but I know it's old. I know when Carrie was up here, I asked her that, like, why are they emerging a day before, and is that older larva? And she said, yeah, that's probably older larva that you're choosing. Yeah.
Temperature can have an effect on that too.
What's that?
Temperature. If you run it just a little bit warmer, that can.
Yeah, it will. But they're all in the incubator, so it'll affect them all the same.
Yeah.
Right.
What temperature are you running your incubator at?
Well, I'm running it at 33.7 right now. Right,
Okay,
Mark?
Let me do some math here real quick, because I don't know that.
I was running it at 35. You can do the math.
I think
92.66.
33 degrees is 91.4.
See, I think I keep ours at 34.
Well, you said 33.7.
I do 93 degrees, which is 34.
33.7. What was the number you gave me, Mark? In Fahrenheit?
92.7.
92.7?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, in short, that's what it is.
Yeah. So I was running 35, and so I talked to Mark last night, and he said you should go down a little bit, so I turned it down.
So I'm interested to know what the reason is behind that.
maybe you can ask Mark that.
Yeah, Mark, answer that, please.
You'll have to ask Corey that.
Ask Mark Miller.
Corey's
the guy
not here.
that breeds far more than I do.
Corey's hatched out a lot more of them than I have. So
Okay.
he's got it down to a science.
Well, I can tell you this: Corey will be in St. Louis in July, and he's giving a full day presentation on grafting, and we're doing hands-on grafting. So I'm going to ask him that specifically. So I'll find out here in about a month and a half.
Tickets available now.
Yeah. Pause for a commercial break.
I've got something else I want to share with you. If I could, why can't I see that tab? That's weird.
Now, as far as hatching like the queens out in the incubator, I've always done that, and I always lost a few because I didn't have the food in there. I always had a hard time feeding them. And that's where I've started using those easy peasy cages, put them out in a banking frame, let them hatch out there in the cell builder.
So this little gadget that I use, you may have seen me point this out on my channel. It's just a little weather station thing, and there's a sensor inside the incubator. So you can see, Mark, you can see where I turned that down from 35 to 34. Now, it doesn't do fractions, so, it did go, I made a little bit of a mistake. It went to 33 and then back to 34. So you can see where I opened it to check the queens at 5:30. And then I can see the humidity too. So it's running at a good solid 75, but now because the temperature is lower, it's not evaporating the water quite as quickly. And it's running at 73, which is still good. It's nice and humid in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can see where I opened the door, right? It just drops.
Oh, yeah. That was the curious part of you?
Well, I checked the cells just to make sure,
Yeah, I understand.
nobody was hanging out yet. So, yeah. So it's just nice, and the nice thing about this too is I can set alerts if this temperature drops or the humidity drops, meaning my tray is run out of water. It'll send me a text message or an email. Well, both actually. Tell me I should address that.
One of the things I'll throw out there that might help, it might not, I don't know. But Charlie, you was talking about putting your virgins back into the cell builder and letting them feed them. I noticed that because I would take mine immediately after they hatched, and I would just throw them right on the top bars of the cell builder and get to them when I get to them, right? And if I left them there for, say, 5 days or whatever in the cell builder, they would just about entomb the cages with wax. And so I started taking and building me a bank, queen right bank, just put the queen excluder over the bottom box and put them in that, and that wouldn't happen no more. And I decided the reason for that was what was happening was there's so many nurse bees in that cell builder that are building wax at that age, and that was the reason for that. They were just building wax. There's so many in that cell builder, right? So
Right.
I stopped doing that. I started them in a bank instead because it just messes my cages up, right? They're just full of wax.
Mhm. And those aren't fun to clean.
No.
Right. So I mean that's just one thing that might help. I don't know. It'll keep your cages clean anyway if you leave them in there anytime.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't leave them in there long.
Yeah. When you hatch the virgin out, you put it in a JZBZ cage?
Well, most of the time, yeah.
Yeah. And then you put the cage in the cell builder and let them feed it for a week.
I'd rather put them in the JZBZs and then put them on a frame and then drop them in a cell builder.
Mm-hmm.
If they hatch out in rollers and I'm in a hurry, I'll just put a cap on them. And I was throwing them right into the cell builder and they were encasing them.
Well, what I'm doing is now it was because of weather conditions here. We were having a lot of rain, still having rain, and we had a lot of cold nights on them rainy nights, like high 40s. So as soon as the day 6 hit, and I had cap queen cells, I pulled the cap queen cells out, put them in the incubator, and I was letting them hatch out in the incubator. Then I got these easy peasy cages, and I'm like, I don't have time to go and look at that incubator every hour to try to catch them before they starve to death. And of course they would go up in the cocoon because there's always that racer head size amount of jelly up in there, and they would eat that and then they would get stuck.
Yeah, but when they're in that hive, they won't usually do that because they're being fed, taken care of.
So when I saw Ryan down there at Williamson down there in Virginia, and he had all that, and that's where I got the easy peasy idea. I seen what he had because he lifted that frame up with about 3 rows of cages in there, and then he had JZBZ on the orange strip on top of the cells or cell bars, and then he said of his own opinion that the time it took for you to get that queen from the incubator to the cell builder to let them feed her in that cage, let's say a JZBZ cage, was crucial time there. And I know that when they come out, they're hungry because they took all this energy to finally get out of that cocoon. So that's when I got those cages, and I was here 2 weeks ago. It was on a Thursday morning. I went down there to check them because they were supposed to hatch that day. And here I got about 8 or 10 of them, hatch. And I mark them because it's easier for me to mark when they're virgin. You don't have to deal with all the other bees. And I put them in JZBZ candy cages. And then I stuck them out there in the cell builder on top of the bars for them to get fed. And then I'm going back and forth to that incubator about 1 or 2 times within an hour just to kind of check. I said, well, I got a couple minutes. Let me go check. Yeah. And I said, this is a pain. And I was busy that day. So I said, well, I got these JZBZ. Let me transfer the cocoon from a hair roller cage to the easy peasy. And I did. And then I had the frame that grafting for the frame that the cages fit in there. And I put, I don't know, 12 or 13 of them on there that were left, put them out there in that hive. And I said, I'll get with you later on and see whether or not the bees, when the queens hatch, whether the nurse bees would feed them and all that stuff. And it was going to rain too in the next couple of days. So I just left them there. And I said, okay, this is going to be an experiment to see what really happens. I kind of knew what was expected to happen. So turns out to be that, yes, they hatched out. They didn't go back up into the cocoon because the nurse bees are right there feeding them. And I had some bees in the JZBZ. And then what I would do is once they hatched out, I would bring them back to the cellar where I'm working at them, and I would mark them blue, put them in a JZBZ candy cage, and then take them out there and put them on the strip if the strip was empty or, had holes to put into it. And then like Ryan also said, when they're fed, and I guess you can confirm this, if they're in there 3 or 4 days in the cages and being fed, actually they grow and they get bigger than just what the normal virgin looks like, kind of about the half size of a fully mated queen.
Yes, definitely.
And that's what
better.
I've also and I've confirmed that. And then I haven't had time to sit down and listen to the video in its fullness, and I'll probably want to listen to it 2 or 3 times. I think there's 5 parts with Bees in the Weeds put out with Kent Williams. And Kent was talking about all what we're talking about right now is that, he's got it on a schedule where he hatches the queens out. After a while, he takes the incubator out of the mix, leaves, puts the cages up on the JZBZ bar, lets them hatch out after they're capped in there. I think he keeps, I don't know what he keeps them in those cages or what, but he'll leave them in there for a week. And he says he takes that virgin queen. It's ready to go out and mate that day. And he will go out there early in the morning, put that queen in the back end of that hive. And he says by noontime or whatever, I forget what he said in the video, but she'll go out and mate that day.
What that's doing, that's controlling your weather. You kind of got the outlook on your weather. You can know that the weather is pretty them days for her to fly, and you can kind of have a little more control over that situation. You got to think we've had rain just about every day, you know. So he's putting that ahead,
Here,
you know,
on the actual table too, I think.
that way he can have them mated on the days he wants them mated, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy's got 800 hives or more, and
Yeah.
I think he's a big queen breeder seller type of guy. I think it's when I actually talked to him so many years back and everything. I want Darren, as far as the easy peasy queen rearing system, it's integrated with JZBZ with the cell bar, the cell cup, and it just all goes together fabulously. You know, that's really nice. And I took all them hair roller cages and I got a gallon Ziploc bag. They all went in there. I'm done with all that stuff.
Yeah. Let's just not forget the reason why we do the incubator is to be able to inspect them virgins when they hatch.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you hatch them out there in that hive, the odds are you're probably not even going to inspect them.
Well, see, that's what I do, Mark, is that I know when they hatch the same day as the cells cap on the other frame in the same hive. So I pull those cages out of there with her in there, take them to my basement where I got this little makeshift table. I pull the cocoon out of there and drop her in my hand, and I mark her and make sure that I don't, hit any antennas or wings or anything. And then I put them in a JZBZ cage. So I am looking at them because I've had several of them there that were kind of like lethargic and they kind of flopped around. And I had one like that. I went ahead and made like a blue mark in a circle around the tube to say, hey. And then I put that one, I didn't have a full strip. So I put that one in the corner of the strip. So I wouldn't get, if I was selling it, I was selling some of them at the time and all that. Yeah, there's your banking frame. One
That's
part
nice.
of it.
Yeah, so
That's
you can
That's for a deep.
Yeah, you can put two of these side by side on a full size frame, and if you count these, there's 10 of them. So you can do 10, 10, and then when you put the other one just like this next to it, you can get 40 in there total, and it kind of snaps in. It's got this little tab.
Oh, cool.
And a little tab on the bottom.
That all goes into the top and bottom bar groove.
Right.
Have you got any of the candy caps that goes on them? I want to see the candy cap. How to pull it out? Pull it out of there.
Now, what I did was I had a wedge top frame here, and that's
pretty big.
Oh, that one has candy in it. He's got candy.
Oh yeah, it sure does, doesn't it?
It's actually probably Hive Alive fondant.
That's giving a lot of time for them to get her out. It's going to take 3 days probably.
So the distance right here, that's probably 3/4 of an inch. So, yeah, these are pretty interesting. I'll tell you what.
Got your bar there, Tom?
The only thing I have a question is when you drop that down in there, the space this way, right, and you push them other cones up to it, can they get to them to feed them very well?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. So this distance right here,
you got to remember it's narrower than the top shoulders of the bar. So
should be
the shoulders on the wooden bar are out beyond that.
Okay, so they can get in between there, right?
Yeah, I mean you haven't violated bee space.
Right. That would be my next question.
All right, and then the other thing is I had the one, mine is only half that size because it's medium, and that space above the caps, they will draw. This time around, they did draw some comb.
Now, other question I got is pull one of them out at the bottom right there where I can see it. Now set it back down in there slowly.
Hold on, Tom, go too high.
Okay, pull it back up, set it back down.
You lose one bed.
Boom, right there. You see that hole?
Yep.
That needs to be covered. That bottom hole needs to be covered because if her foot's in there, you've just broke it off.
Oh, yeah.
I see what you're saying. What you're saying is,
Yeah. Good point.
the bottom hole right here, if her foot's out and you slide it down inside there, you've done cut her foot off.
Cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're putting
either that or the wall of that needs to be shallower, which I would say cover up that.
But if you're putting these in there for banking, you don't want them chewing out that candy plug. So you can put them this way instead, and that's not an issue.
Yeah, that's true.
So really, they should probably go that direction. Because when you're
if you've got
banking them,
if
you
you
don't
got the
want them
candy
to-
plugs on there, right, you would have to turn it upside down.
Yeah, and then that's not an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Now
so
you're
it's-
banking a virgin queen that way is what your idea is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, either way, if it's virgin or mated queen you're banking, you don't want them getting her or releasing her.
Yeah,
So these actually are upside down probably.
Or you could put a piece of tape on it.
Yeah.
Well, upside down is relative to how you want to use it.
Correct.
Yeah, because see, the way I'm doing it is I'm putting a queen cell in there ready to hatch within 2 days.
Yeah.
And I put that rack in my cell builder and let them hatch out. And as soon as she hatches out, she's getting fed immediately. And all that. So as far as the legs getting caught, I can see where you're saying that if she's running around and all that.
Now, one of the things I do is when it's okay, one of the things about being successful in grafting is being consistent about the larva that you get, right? I don't care if it's the youngest you can find or whatever, but you're consistent about that age larva that you graft. So when you put them in an incubator, pretty much they're going to all hatch close to the same time instead of being real like 6 hours away or 8 hours away. So when it's time for them to start hatching now, I used to go out there and I'd wait and I'd get 4 or 5 and then go get 4 or 5 more. Now when it's time, I don't even waste my time. I go out there, I'll get what's hatched, what hadn't hatched, I go and hatch them myself. And then they go in the bank from there. So that way I'm not wasting my time. I just go ahead and hatch them out.
So it should clip on the
So I'll hold this up a little closer. If I can.
So you could still get 15 on there.
Yeah.
Put another one up
It's
next to
designed to
that,
be able
Tom.
to put 15 cages on there. And what it's doing, it's
sweet.
hooking. On those ears that are wrapped around, there's a bump, and that bump hooks on the cell, the JZBZ cell rim right there. See, you've already pulled the
It's
cap
already in
off
there
with it,
now.
didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did. The cap's
It's
in there.
See, it's already snapped in.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Now turn that cage. I don't know if you can see the bump in there or not.
Yeah.
I might just have to buy me that system.
There's a little bump.
Yeah.
There's a little bump on each side of them ears there where that there flange that sticks out there. It snaps right in there.
I might
See how it
retire my
snaps?
incubator if I had that.
Right. So it ain't going to come out of there.
Yeah, you
Now,
can do away with the incubator.
what I was talking about, he was saying now, Tom,
Squeeze it.
squeeze it the thick side. I know. Take your fingers where it's solid.
like here.
No.
No, down on the
On the sides.
sidewalls.
Oh, here.
Go ahead
Yes.
and put the JZB snap back in. All right, now it's tight. Now squeeze the sides in a little bit, and it will spread those walls out a little bit, and you can pull it out easier.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah, that works easily.
Yeah,
Nice.
because it flexes.
Otherwise, I can't pull it out easily. If
That's
I
right.
squeeze it,
That's right. Now, what
that's
I
good
do
stuff.
is that I do that way, and like he was saying, some people don't have the strength or whatever, or maybe you get tired after 30 of them. I take a small straight blade screwdriver, like about the something maybe a 1/4 inch wide or 1/8 of an inch wide tang, and I stick it in there where that little scooped out area is in there. Go in there,
Right
and then
here.
right there, right in the edge, and then just twist it slightly, and it'll pop that edge right up out of that little bump.
You're basically talking like right here.
And there you go.
Yeah.
But it,
Kapow.
Yep. You can kind of stick it in there and just barely.
twist it and
Twist
see
it.
how it's cocked, and it'll come
Yeah.
out of there. Of course, it's got a cocoon on the end of it.
So them bars right there, how many can you get on them bars?
15. You got
15.
15 cells and
Yep.
15.
But they hold.
15. Yep, 15.
They hold 15 cups.
Do they fit in wood, or have you got to have a special frame?
No, it's designed for that.
Yeah.
Oh, those bars. Yeah.
This is the
Mark,
JZBZ cell bar, the plastic
Right.
one.
but the cell bar itself will fit
But I
in
don't
a
have
wooden
them.
frame. They fit in wooden frames.
We'll
That's
pitch
what I.
in. We'll get you some, Mark.
I don't have them. I'm the old school way.
We'll pitch in and get you some. Then you can use the system.
Well, I just wondered if you got to have a special frame.
No.
No, you don't.
That sits on just your
Likely, if
regular
the
grafting
dimension
frame.
of that
That
wood
slides in your regular
was
grafting frame.
small enough, it would fit in there
Right.
just fine.
If something that I didn't know this, and I'm sure Mark has known it forever, is when you get a JZBZ orange thing that you put your candy cages in, and it's the long one that actually fits in your cell builder bar,
Right.
like you were talking about, so you can bank it in the hive.
Yeah.
If you look at the ends of that end on that JZBZ is the same. The orange part looks just like that gray part on that one.
Oh, okay. I got
So
you.
they'll fit in them slots in there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Charlie.
them orange bars, if you load them down, they have to have support in the middle because they sway
Really?
over time. Yeah.
Yeah.
What time?
Charlie, did Dan tell you about squeezing the sides?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the
Oh.
show.
He
Okay.
was talking about
Because-
it on last night.
Yeah, because I told him about. I said I got a pair of regular pliers, and I went down and had a cocoon, and the queen was down in there, or actually I was trying it before the queen got in there, and I pulled it. Well, it's it releases so quick you can't have any control,
Mhm.
and if it cocks that cocoon one way or the other, a lot of times she's up on the side of that cocoon, and you'll smash her or
Yeah.
damage her or something. I said, well, this is no good. So I bought. It's one of them ones. It's a what do you call it? A screwdriver that fits in your pocket. It's got a little pocket clip on it.
Mhm.
Sometimes they have a little magnet on the one
Yep.
end.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
the ones you kind of get for free a lot of times.
Sure.
I had one of them, and I go in there like that and just give it a quick little twist. And of course, when they're in the hive like that, they're kind of glued in with wax.
Mhm.
So I tried the squeeze method, which does work if they're kind of clean. If they
Yeah.
got a little bit of wax around that top where the bees have put it in there, I go in there and just kind of give it a slight twist on each corner, or at least one corner, and it just kind of comes up, easy. And then you can do everything very easy and precise.
Yeah.
And all. But I love them. And
So how
Darren, if
much
you're
are
gonna,
100 of them? How much do they cost? About like say,
they're
100 pack of them.
I will look it up.
you get 30 of them for $60 or
Yeah.
$2.
So here, this was the highest for Heroes one. It's still in plastic. I have it open. I bought it late. No, maybe he brought it to maybe our
No,
conference.
because he didn't come to our conference because
So-
they hurt his back.
It's got the little tray underneath. And
We got that. We got that at Nobby.
so that you can put them inside the the incubator. Here, I'll pop one out and show you. This is a tray you can use to put them in the incubator. And you can get 30 in there.
For the set. I can't figure out what it is.
Not gonna work.
Tip it more.
There. It's $80 for the queen ring set.
Yeah, that's with bars and everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many cages is that?
30, I think.
Yeah, I think he's right.
Oh no, it's 110. It was 80. It's 110 right now.
So you can't buy the cages like by the hundreds?
You can.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah, cages. If you buy the cages by themselves, you get 30 in a pack.
So that's $75.
That's $60.
About $2 a piece.
Yeah, $2 a piece. And then the next thing he has is where you get the tray, 30 cages, 30 candy caps, and the syringe with the long needle on it, which is not sharp at the end, like a tube needle, where if you were going to go in there and squirt in the bottom of them 2 cages, you got 2 slots. You can put water over here and you can put honey over here, and you can go in there and prime that with food if you had them for your incubator that way.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it on here, but just inside the cage, right along this bottom edge, it runs back and forth this way, and also a little trough on this side here. Inside there, it's probably not going to show up. Well, you can see
it. Yeah.
2 little troughs down in there. So he's definitely put some thought into this. The one thing that sold me on this when I originally bought these 2 years ago was those little feeding troughs down the bottom. One for water, one for a little bit of honey. And as soon as I seen that, I'm like, I want some of those. And we bought 1 package of them, and I liked them so much that I think I've got 2 more, I think.
We have a lot of them.
That's what the syringe is for then, I guess. To load
That's
that
what
up.
the syringe is for, to put the
The
feed in.
time loading that up, though, I just wonder versus a roller cage. You know,
Depends how you're set up. I mean,
yeah.
Dab it on there, wipe it off, close it. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. So now I've got to take and draw it up in a syringe, stick it in there. There's gonna be a little more time involved in that.
Well,
but if you put them in okay, and the hive to let them hatch out, I ain't even worried about doing that.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's why I do it. I don't. It frees me up. I mean, I'm sure it's like you, Mark, where you put them in the hive and you're working all week. They're being fed all week. You don't have to worry about that, and they're fine.
I can move them out of the cell builder and put them right in the bank and walk away. I ain't got to come back for a week.
Yeah. And that's what I've learned here as far as me getting back into the grafting this year is that, hey, as soon as they hatch I leave them hatching in the cell builder, and it's like, okay, they can take care of them. Then when I can get there, I can take them out. I can mark them, put them in the candy cage, put them on the JZBZ orange strip, take them back out there and leave them in there until I sell them or I use them. Or if the weather's crappy for the next 2 days, I can get out there when weather, cooperates.
And the bees are going to call out the bad ones.
Yeah.
They're not going to feed them bad ones anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to call them out for you.
Is that right? Okay. Now I had one there that was, I almost pinched her down in the basement when I was marking her. I said, this one here just ain't acting right. And it's kind of flopping around and not, crawling all over my hand nice like most of them are. And I'm like, all right, I'll just put her in a candy cage and mark her, make sure that I don't sell her just to look at her. Put her out there in that incubator or that cell builder out there. And I went back 2 or 3 days later, or a couple of days later when the weather was right. And it was like, she perked right up. It's like she was starving to death and just about ready to die. But then they got a hold of her and fed her. And then she's she was like the last one I put out in one of my 2-frame mating boxes. I wouldn't sell her. And I'm looking at her and well, hell, she's running around in there and having a good time. And I'm like, you know, don't be too hasty, I guess, the next time you see him.
You know, Mark, I don't know if you can see the chat, but Roy's been asking, this is a good time to jump this question in. What do you look for when you're inspecting your virgins? What are some of the things that you might be looking for that might indicate some sort of inferiority or something wrong with that queen? Take us through your checklist.
Well, I'm looking at her body altogether. Anything wrong with her body? She could have deformed wing. Her antennas, make sure she got her antennas, all of her legs. Make sure she looks normal, you know. She's not all black. You can tell if there's something wrong with her color, you know. Just anything that don't look right.
If she's missing an antennae or a leg or a wing, short wing versus a long wing, that ain't gonna work.
Right.
Yep. Do you ever look at overall size at that point?
No, size don't matter. I can tell you that.
Yeah, at that point, it's that there's so much variation on where they're at and where they're going. Yeah, I know. I'm with you. Yeah. I've seen that so many times, though.
You can't have a big blue like Brad did there on the video there. Yeah. What he got blue on the wings or something like that?
Yeah, I got a little too zealous with the old pen, so I think that one's not going to work out.
All right. This is my question. I've been down in the basement and handling these girls with my fingers, and I'm like, they're the ones that are really good. They're moving around and wanting to walk and go and. What's the best way? I thought I was trying to put them on this finger like a saddle, and your thumb and your index, you're trying to hold them, and then so you can mark them. But it's like sometimes I have to have them this way and then kind of hold them like that way to kind of get them settled in, and then I have to have my right hand to mark them. Is there any?
I try to get them
any
to walk
secret
up my
to do
finger,
that?
Charlie. I try to get them to walk up my finger, and then I can just cradle one side of them. With my thumb, I can get usually 3 legs, and it doesn't take long. And just dab, and then she's primed to get that JZBZ cage. She's in there.
Well, do you feel? I feel like I'm like, am I going to rip their legs off? Or?
Oh, you got to be gentle.
On a virgin, I just hold her side by side.
Well, that's what I've been doing.
Just like this right here.
I've started to do that
on a mated queen. I'll grab her by the wings and I'll set her on this finger and I can feel her grabbing my finger, right? And when she grabs my finger, I just take my other thumb and I grab the legs and then I dot her on.
Yeah, well, I was, I don't see if I can get this in my camera.
But on a virgin, I don't do that.
I'm trying to layer on that finger, and then these 2 fingers are kind of squeezing her, I'll say. Mm-hmm. And this finger is kind of like the saddle where she's straddling it. And sometimes that works, but a lot of times I just kind of get her with these fingers here. I kind of position her with this to get it in there, and she's kind of got her head cocked down, and I do a real gentle dab on her, or a little bit of a circle motion, and then I pick up my cage and let her walk on in, and all that. I guess it's just
keep doing it. It'll get better. Just keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun doing. I might not get. This last take was like a 50% for some reason. I think the grafting. It's like I said in the video, the grafting material was pretty bad, and I was pushed to get things done quick because of 3 days worth of work, and but. It's like, okay, I'm getting to the point now where like I need to back off on instead of 30 cell graft, and maybe I don't even need to do a bar or 20 cells because, all right, what am I going to do with all these queens? I'm trying to sell them. I said, I want one, and then they said, well, I don't need one.
I'm thinking the same thing, Charlie. You saw my calendar, right? Every 4 days I'm grafted. 30 to 45 cells. I think I'm asking for trouble.
But it's like I said in my video, every step of the way, there's a percentage of lossage. All right, I
And
went
things
out
get
there
more
and
complex.
I had 11 two frame mating boxes out there. I checked this one; it just didn't look right. Got in there, bees are all gone. So I happen to have this one queen that's been in the darn bank for a week because this person said, "Oh, I'll pick her up Tuesday." Well, guess what? You get a text while you're baling hay. "Oh, I don't need her now. And I'm like, okay.
I hate when that happens when I'm baling hay.
I know.
Every time I go out there to bale hay, hate it.
Charlie, she
Baling hay.
never hardly probably touched a hay bale in her life.
Well, anyway, you know, there's your, you know, you still have that beekeeper interaction that kind of torques you sometimes. But so anyway, I went out there and got that nuke and I pulled them frames out, and then I went around and I found some relatively, you know, about half cap or a half hatch brood frames with nurse bees, put them in there, went over to my cell builder, which is, I got gobs of nurse bees. And I'm like, okay, we need to take a little bit out of this thing a little bit. And I let a bunch of them fall in that box, took it back to the rack and dropped that girl in there. And Mark, you're right. The longer you left them in there, they do like to fly off. Because guess what? The next day,
I quit walking them in. I do not do that no
that
more.
you told me that one girl that I liked the best because she was a black dark girl, striped, shoom,
Yep.
off
I
in
do
the
not do that no
yonder.
more. Number one, it takes longer to release them. Just drop the candy cage in and walk away. Be done
All
with
right.
it.
Well, let me ask you this. This is my question. All right. You put her in a candy cage. She doesn't have any smell, and you put her on a frame. They don't care about her. So
They're
are
going
they
to
going
take care of her.
Are they going to keep? Are they going to eat the candy out to release her?
Yeah, they're going to feed her just like they do in a bank.
Well,
They're going to feed her. They're going to get to know who she is when they feed her. Now they know her.
It'll be low.
Mm,
She'll have a pheromone, but it's going to be very low.
yeah. I was just wondering whether they're going to, you know, eat the candy out to release her. 'Cause they're like, I don't care.
Oh,
about
They
her.
don't eat the candy to release her. The candy is made of sugar and they're bees. That's why they eat the candy. They don't look at the candy and think there's a queen
Right.
on the other side of this.
Right.
Right?
Meantime, they're taking care of her. See, if it takes a day, they're feeding her. They're taking care of her, so they get to know her.
Yeah.
If you just drop her in, they don't know who she is. She just walked in. They haven't fed her. They don't know who she is. Now she's got to walk around and figure it out.
I want to know. So back to the marking thing. How many of you guys mark virgins? Or
I stopped marking virgins. I used to all the time, but I don't do it no more.
did you find that your mating success was not as good when you marked them? Is that why you quit?
I believe so. I think it has something to do with it, but honestly, I can't say for sure.
Not in my case.
Because when you're fooling with genetics, one thing about it is when you're fooling with one type of genetics, trying to get them mated with another type of genetics, there's always that prejudice, right? So I was dealing with that at that time. So I can't say whether it was one or the other, right?
Yeah.
I just know it was a red year and my mating success sucked that year. Was it the red or was it the genetic issue? You know, I don't know.
Well,
I just quit marking them.
How many people in here are brave enough to raise a hand? Who's painted the eyes of a queen before?
Oh yeah.
I mean, painted her well, like you were painting your girlfriend's toenails, kind of deal. Oh yeah, not good.
Especially in the heat. In the heat out there, and it's 100 degrees, and you're trying to mark one, and it just runs everywhere.
So I will tell you this, Mark. I did that one time, once, because ever since then, I'm like, we were talking earlier, Brad, about when you do something or you don't like how something works out, you change that. You figure something out, and you're like, okay, a change has to be made here. So now, before I go to mark a queen, particularly if it's warm, and that I always have the two things I have in my pocket, well, three things in my pockets on my jackets. I have queen cages there, usually 4 or 5. I have a small pin light to see down inside the cells, and I always have a marking pen for that year. what I usually do is when I pull it out and I pop the cap off, I have the queen, I dab it on the frame first.
Always dab the nib. Always dab the nib.
That's right.
You have no idea how that ink is going to flow unless you dab the nib.
Dab it
Always,
every time.
always, always dab the nib.
Now, one thing I have
That's what
noticed,
I didn't do when I
Yeah.
painted that one. The wings on that one is I didn't dab the nib.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I did notice is that I had a Posco pen, which is real liquidy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
They're
had
awful.
the one that Bob Walker was selling, whatever kind that was.
Competitive advantage.
That's a little more drier type of ink pen. You have to kind of, in order to keep it nice and juicy, you have to dab it every couple markings or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the one I'm using in the basement. Now I do have a Posco out in the truck, but you're right. You dab on, you hit that plunger on the front of that felt on the, it'll pop a big old puddle on there.
Oh yeah.
And all that stuff. But I don't know. I checked one of my hives, or I was out there spot checking, especially for the ones that had hives in it. And as long as they were easy this evening, because I had to go away. And I found one of my virgins, that's made it, and she's laying up a storm, and she's nice and blue and all that. So
I like waiting to mark them too until they come back mated, because then I know that's like another sign that she's mated. I know that's a mated queen. And you were talking about holding them. So I'm just not coordinated enough to hold that queen and like pop the lid and mark them. So both of us actually will find the queen and kind of just lightly put put a finger like right behind her thorax and just kind of hold her down ever so lightly, because you don't want to damage anything, and just dot her then.
Mm-hmm. I had one there. It was
similar to Rob's thing that he just came out with. You're holding her down with that rubber band or whatever.
Have you tried that rubber band thing?
I'm sure that works great, because that's what we're doing, just using our finger.
I think it might work pretty good myself.
It's just one more.
If you can catch her with the rubber band, that's gonna be the problem.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
That's right.
My power keeps going off and on for some reason.
Todd, we use the light blue one. We're not using the dark. And the same with the red year. We use hot pink.
Yeah,
because that red is hard to see.
I can't see the red.
Down there at Hardeman's, they had a breeder queen down there, and it was like neon. And I'm like, man, it just went pop out at you. And he said, we found that you had to paint her white and then cover that up with this neon. It really made it stand out.
That's too much work.
I know. That's what I said.
Pink works great on red year, light blue this year, and a lime green, a light green on the green year.
Yeah. My favorite color set.
So I got something I want to share with y'all.
Yellow.
I shared it with Brad the other night. I was doing a brood break on a big colony the other day. In fact, I think Matt was here when I done it. I caught the queen, put her in a roller cage, put her in the bottom box, put a queen excluder on, a deep box on top of that with bees in it, and then there was a honey super on top of that didn't have nothing in it, just pulled comb. So I come back. I believe I got sick. I didn't fool with bees for 2 weeks, and I come back. Wait a minute, let me back up. After I put the queen in there, put the queen excluder on, I noticed in that other box I had a queen cell. And I thought, well, I'm just going to see what happens. I didn't mash it or nothing. I just stuck it in there. Now, deep box, there's a cage queen with a queen excluder, another deep box, and a honey super. There's no way out at the top. There's no cracks. There's nothing. I come back in 2 weeks. The queen's in the bottom in the cage, still alive. But that queen cell had hatched out and mated and was laying at the top, in the top, with no way out. Tell me, did she get mated in that box? Or did she go through the queen excluder and then go back up and through the queen excluder and start laying?
That's the only way she could have.
Probably back up.
Did you name
I
that
think
Queen
she got
Mary?
mated in the box myself. I mean, that's just my theory. There was
Those
drones
would
in
be,
there.
but if
Could
she got
have.
put in the box, those would be drones that are related to her. So I wouldn't
those would be
think that.
diploids.
Not necessarily.
Well,
Drones move from box
that's
to
true.
box.
Yeah,
That's true. You're right.
drones are everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm just saying, I've never had that happen, but I've seen it with my own eyes,
Yeah.
and now I'm wondering. You know,
I'm going to go with the second theory. That's what I'm going to go with. But you're right. I mean,
now that queen was in the bottom in a cage. She could have went through there, got mated, and then like, well, there's a queen down here. I'm going up.
Yep.
And got through there. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
I have had a
I've
colony.
had them get
swarm.
through.
I've had a colony swarm. Started a requeen. Obviously, you just let it happen. I removed the excess swarm cells inside there, let it finish its deal, came back, and actually this had a honey super on it, as a matter of fact. Went to go harvest honey last year. There was only one super on it. Pulled it off, and I usually pull one frame out of the center. I kind of peeked down inside there, capped brood. So I said, there's a queen up here. Went through, found her, caged her, put her in the shade, and said, is there a second one downstairs? Went downstairs, looked for evidence, no evidence. So I'm like, okay, there's one queen. What I think happened was, obviously, she emerged, went out, got mated. When she came back up, she went all the way upstairs where they were drawing comb and started laying in the box. And when she got a fat rear end, she couldn't get back down, and that's where she stayed.
Yeah, 'cause she had that honey super laid up. It was empty, and it was laid up. You know,
Mark,
so
was that a metal queen excluder?
It was. Yeah.
Metal ones you can't always see when they're bent.
True.
Yeah.
Plastic ones you can usually see when they're broken.
Yeah.
But would she go through that same spot twice?
Brad,
Well,
we're all expert
Find it.
beekeepers. We wouldn't bend an excluder.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't.
Do everything perfect.
Doesn't happen here, Brad. You're wrong. You're wrong, Brad.
I don't know. I mean, I've never
It doesn't
seen
take
it.
much. Half a millimeter bend, and you get through. She'll find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I had one a few weeks ago move up in one of my honey supers, and I found her. We marked her, and I moved the excluder and put her under it. My wife said, "You don't think you got two queens in this hive?" I said, "It don't matter at this point. It's too late in the game to worry about it."
Yeah.
I threw her in the bottom.
So about the drones, going from hive to hive, when I first wanted to start marking queens, I used the advice people give to mark some drones. So I went out, opened one of my colonies, and I picked up a bunch of drones and marked them. It's all these yellow drones, and then for the longest time in my apiary, I'd be managing colonies randomly, and there's these yellow drones everywhere. And they're extremely promiscuous. They do not care
go
where
everywhere.
they live.
Yeah.
Absolutely go everywhere. So
They're all-
that's
I
an
don't
interesting.
understand the AI process, and they go out and they catch drones from certain hives. Well, them drones don't live in that hive all the time. They go from one hive to the other.
Yeah.
So how do you know you're catching particular
Unless
drones?
they've just got a
I
whole
don't-
yard, that has the traits that they're looking for. I guess I don't know.
Here's what you got to do, Mark. You got to get a drone frame, get it all laid up and capped, and then put it in your incubator and let all 4,000 of them hatch out.
They
And
won't,
just-
though. They won't hatch out by themselves. They have to have help from the worker bee to hatch.
To chew out of the caps.
Yeah, they can't chew out of it themselves.
Hmm.
They have to have help from the worker to hatch. Yeah, I've done that, Melissa.
Yeah,
That's the
I'm
difference
gonna go
between
ahead.
science and practice, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joey.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. It's been 3 hours, so it's been a good chat, y'all. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Time.
We lost track of time here.
Yeah. Say good night
All right.
to everybody over in the chat.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
See
Bye,
y'all.
everyone.
everybody.